Hey, welcome to the 442nd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to that secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. Currently, we are looking back at some weird and wacky, crazy Silver Age DC comics. A lot of it with Superman, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, some Batman, and it's just weird things happening. Superman possibly killing people, doing weird things. Yeah, it's crazy. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3, and that is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And I'm due for another Off My Mind episode, maybe possibly next week. I forget when, and I got to come up with an idea. So what is happening this week? One, I don't have much of a voice. Hopefully I will make it through this podcast. I may have to pause and have some tea. Hopefully you won't be able to tell the difference or whatever. So we'll see how it's going. It's been a long and busy week. During the day, I gave so many tests. I have so much grading to do. I had to look at math books for the next year, deciding on new textbooks. So yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. As far as why you are here, I don't think you're here to listen to math. Some of you might be here to listen about math. I don't know if you're going to hear much. The movie feature is Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. So that's directed by Gore Verbinski, and it has Sam Rockwell and a bunch of other people in it. And I'm really glad I went and saw this movie because it was between this and Crime 101, and I really enjoyed this. And then we will also have the season finale of Fallout, and it's crazy. 8 episodes, it's over. I mean, it feels like it went by so fast, and I just really enjoyed that. And just to kind of give my extra seal of approval, pre-orders are up on Amazon for the season 2 Steelbook, 4K Steelbook, and that's how much I like it. Yes, I can hop onto Prime Video and watch it anytime I want because I'm paying for it, but I want to have that physical media. And in case people aren't aware, there is a difference between watching a 4K disc versus streaming something. Even if you have a 4K TV and you're streaming it, you are not necessarily. It's still going to be compressed when it's streaming. So, watching on a 4K disc with a 4K, player and TV and all that, it is going to look better. And plus, then you don't have to worry about it ever disappearing. You own it. You can watch it anytime you want. And I buy the things that I really enjoy, that I really like. I'm not going to buy everything because I'm not made of money, sadly. But I did get Fallout Season 2. So I'm looking forward to that. And I will also say this, a little spoiler. I was kind of bummed after I saw Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Because a lot of times, the day before movie comes out, a lot of times the Thursdays when movie comes out, pre-orders will go up for the movie, for the Steelbook, if there is one. They don't have a release date, but they'll say, okay, yes, there is going to be a Steelbook. This is what the Steelbook looks like, or tentatively, sometimes it'll be artwork not yet revealed. And I was hoping that there was going to be a Steelbook for Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And the pre-orders are not out. Doesn't mean there won't be one, but I'm wondering, I forget who the studio was. I don't think, it's not like a big wide release. And I don't even know what the box office is. But that's a movie, I will definitely buy that. So that's how much I enjoyed it. So we got that movie. We got Fallout season finale. We got another Wonder Man. And this show is so interesting, so perplexing, that the fact that it's making me care about Trevor's, his character, yeah. So we have that. We have another Hijack. Things are getting nuts there. I know we have comics and hopefully comics. See how much comics. Comics have just been hard to keep up with lately, but that we won't get into that. And we have some news. It was weird when I was looking at news. I was like, "There's no news this week. I'm not finding much." The Russos have said that Steve Rogers will have a key role in Avengers Doomsday. Like he's supposed to be like a big deal about it, which is interesting because we all assume it's Robert Downey Jr. And is it going to be that? Because again, I still don't know. We don't know. I feel like I keep saying this every single time. Is Robert Downey Jr. is he playing Tony Stark or is he playing Victor Von Doom? Is he playing a different version? Because our Tony Stark that we've been watching, he died in Endgame. He sacrificed himself. So this other Tony Stark, this is, I'm assuming, multiverse. He is an alternate dimensional whatever version of Tony Stark. But then the other question is he really a Tony Stark or is he a Victor Von Doom who just happens to look like Robert Downey, who happens to look like Tony Stark? Because it can happen. If we count Deadpool and Wolverine, we saw that they brought in Johnny Storm, spoiler, who looks just like Chris Evans, who looks just like Steve Rogers. And Deadpool was confused at first. So if you're talking about like multiverse, and I mean, are there infinite dimensions? Is that what we're saying? If there's an infinite number of dimensions, there could be a Tony Stark that looks like me. And one of those, I mean, right? If there's infinite dimensions, there's got to be one where that happens. There's got to be a multiverse where Tony Stark looks like one of my cats. And maybe everything, because I always joke about the Marvel whatever universe where everyone is dinosaurs. You have like superhero dinosaurs instead of humans. I don't know what the deal is, but if it's Tony, if Chris Evans, if he's going to be the key, is he going to try to appeal to Tony Stark? Or because if he's going to be the key, it doesn't make sense that he would be Victor Von Doom. And I don't know if they've ever said it. I think I mentioned like a few weeks ago that they weren't even going to get into his name. So I don't even know, but we'll see about that. And I'm glad they finally mentioned this, but where did I see this at? But they said that just because Chris Evans is back, it doesn't mean that Sam Wilson has given up the mantle. That he's still going to be Captain America, and that's what I've been saying. Supposedly people were getting mad, and I just wonder who are these people that are getting mad? Because I remember seeing an article like fans upset about Chris Evans. It's like I would think nothing against Sam Wilson or Anthony Mackie, but if you're like Chris Evans is returning, if that was in a theater for the first time, people would be cheering. And it doesn't mean that they don't like Anthony Mackie, but also as comic book readers know, currently Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers are both Captain America, just like Peter Parker and Miles Morales are both Spider-Man. It's just a name. It's just a mantle. It's not. There's nothing that says you can only have one. Logan and Laura Kinney are both Wolverine. So it's ridiculous that they're like, oh, Chris Evans is back. That means Sam Wilson is going to have to give up being Captain America. He doesn't even have. No, I guess he does. He does have the shield, right? Because Steve gave it to him. That'll be the question. It's like, what's going to happen with the shield? I don't know if it's the same shield or not, or did he get it replaced? I don't know. But yeah, so we have that. Spider-Man Noir. Is it called Spider-Man or is it called Spider Noir? I think it might be called Spider Noir. I'm forgetting now. So we had a trailer, and it's interesting. It's not quite what I expected. and I'm getting like really stuffed up right now. It's so weird. I've been sitting here for a bit before I hit the record button, trying to get ready for this. I'm fine, taking some cough drops or whatever. But now, this happens other time when I'm not going through whatever I'm going through, where I start recording and then I start getting stuffed up. It's like, what is it? I don't know. It's something with the oxygen I'm breathing. Is there? Yeah. So you'll probably notice my voice is just all wacky. So Spider Noir, Nick Cage it's very Nick Cagey. He is being very Nick Cage, and that's great because I love when Nicolas Cage is like so into his characters and he does his thing. Because not many people could really pull that off the way he's doing it. You could try to imitate him, but for him, it's so natural or whatever. But for him to be doing that as this character, that seems a little weird. I mentioned before, or we saw like on his private investigation door, he's not Peter Parker. He's going to be Ben Reilly. So as you know, Ben Reilly is Spider-Man's clone. I don't think they're necessarily saying he's a clone in this. Someone involved with the show said that they're using Ben Reilly because, and I don't believe this necessarily, but like Peter Parker, people associate Peter Parker as like a high school kid. It's like, I don't know about that. Peter Parker hasn't been in high school since like the 70s. I think it was like 75 or something like that when he graduated, or maybe that might have been when he graduated college. So it's been a long time in the comics since Peter has been in high school. So yeah, in a lot of the different adaptations that we see, that's a different story. But even in like the MCU, Tom Holland's not in high school anymore, right? Whatever. I do think it's. I think it kind of. I don't mind that they're changing it, because it's Spider, but it's like such a different version of Spider-Man that it would be weird for him to be Peter Parker. I don't think it really matters. It's not that big of a deal. The bigger the one crazy thing is, there's some footage of him swinging through the city. It looks. I'm not really sure how I feel. I can't tell if it looks good or if it looks too CG. But the big question is, and I saw like on X or whatever, a lot of people commenting, how does he keep the hat on? Because Spider Noir, he has like a fedora on or whatever. He's swinging around, that hat stays on. Does he put a little webbing inside to make sure it doesn't come off? Because he's literally swinging, that hat is not moving. So that's just comic physics, I guess. I don't know. But then the other thing also, I don't remember if I mentioned this before, he is not going to be called Spider-Man. So, which is why I don't think they're calling it, I think it's called Spider Noir, not Spider-Man Noir. He is just going to be known as the Spider, which I think they're saying, oh yeah, that's similar to like the Shadow, the Spirit. So it's, that, okay, that's fine. And again, I think that could be a good thing. Most of the hardcore people we know, and especially anyone who's watched, Spider-Verse, they know that who Spider-Man Noir is. And he doesn't have to be called Spider-Man because we all know who he is. And if you call him Spider-Man, it might be a little weird. Where's the red and blue costume? So I think that's okay. I didn't mention trailers like Super Bowl stuff. So we had Super Bowl last week. And there was I'm trying to remember now. Was it another teaser? Or was it a trailer? I think it was more of a trailer. There's another Supergirl trailer. And you got to see more like Crypto. Crypto as a puppy. Looks so darn cute. And just more. I'm looking forward to it. I really hope it's good, because I really like the character, and I always felt like she's underrated. She doesn't get enough credit or enough whatever spotlight. So let's hope that this is good, and hope it's a good story. I'm a little concerned about Lobo. It's cool, great. We're getting live action Lobo, but hopefully doesn't like drag the movie down. I don't know, but I guess people are excited about that. Not really comic book related or anything like that, but we also had a trailer for, I guess it's called Adventures of Cliff Booth. It was weird because during the Super Bowl we had a trailer, a Brad Pitt movie, and I mean, unless you were paying attention, depending on what you're doing, I was actually grading some Spanish midterms, and just like, oh, Brad Pitt, what is this? At nowhere during the trailer they don't even mention the name of the movie. But I guess if you're paying attention, you see like, oh, look at what he's wearing. That looks like Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's an interesting trailer the way it is, and there's like some of the like fuzzed out, or like, I don't even know how you would call it. So it's like, is that going to be in a movie like that, or is that just for the trailer? And so it's going to be on Netflix, and I think we knew that once upon a time, or at some point, but I had forgotten that this is going to be like a straight to Netflix movie. It'll probably, hopefully, play in theaters. I hope they give it a limited theatrical run. And it's interesting that it's directed by David Fincher, and not Quentin Tarantino, because Quentin Tarantino, he wants to do his 10 movies and that's it. So he's not going to direct a sequel. Apparently, I think he's writing the movie, the script, but he's just not directing it. And okay, that's fine. But I'm curious what David Fincher is going to do. How it's going to compare. Like, is the vibe? Is he going to go for the same vibe? Is he going to mix it up? Make it his own. So I'm really looking forward to that. Darkman. So I think I feel like I mentioned it, that there's talk of doing a Darkman sequel. So yes, there were 2 other Darkman sequels without Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson was Darkman, and I still think it's kind of funny in a way, because I remember seeing the movie in a theater. I remember Sam Raimi, and then like it felt like after this, it's like I had no idea who Liam Neeson was, but then like after this, it kind of exploded, and it was like all over the place. And then he became when he did like Schindler's List and other, he became like a proper actor, and I don't mean that in an insult to movies like Darkman, because I absolutely love these movies, but he became like, I don't even know, not more sophisticated. I don't know what I'm saying. But then this is a guy who did The Naked Gun, which I watched that last weekend. I really liked the Naked Gun movies, Airplane, all those, and I was feeling a little down, so I was like, I want to watch, I'm going to watch something for fun, something that is not like work, that's not like a podcast related thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this, because I appreciate the really bad humor, whatever you want to call it. And a buddy of mine hated the movie. He said it was not funny. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't like anything that's funny. I watched it. It wasn't funny. There's a couple okay moments, but it's something, I don't know. It's so weird. Every once in a while on Instagram, I'll get like a random clip from Airplane or The Naked Gun, and it makes me smile. It makes me chuckle. But this movie was definitely missing. I don't know what it was. It didn't quite get it. But going back to Darkman, so I guess there's a possibility of a Darkman sequel, and I think they're gonna like ignore Darkman 2 and Darkman 3 that were not with Liam Neeson. Someone asked Liam Neeson, "Hey, are you going to be doing this?" And apparently no one has approached him about doing it. So what does that mean? I mean, maybe they're figuring like, well, he's probably not going to want to do it. Or maybe they're thinking, we can't afford to pay him to do it. He's going to want way too much money because he's done all these movies. So but it sounds like he's open to it. He says that, he would love to work with Sam Raimi again. And he's also curious to see like how the character would be adapted for like a modern audience. Because I mean, the first movie came out in 1990. So I'm really curious what they're going to do with that. I just recently bought Darkman in 4K, and partly it's one that I've kind of wanted for, because I've always had like a soft spot for that movie, and from what I recall, I haven't seen it in like forever. I don't think it's like the greatest movie ever necessarily, but it's a Sam Raimi movie, and I am curious to watch it again, and I hope that they do a sequel, and it would be great if they got Liam Neeson. Do they need him? His face gets, that's how they were able to do sequels without Liam Neeson, because you don't need to have his face. So, yeah, we'll have to see where they're at with that, and fingers crossed. And I feel like there's something else, but the only other thing that I can think of with news is, and it's not, I made a note of this as a joke. The rating for Scream 7 has been announced. What do you think is going to be rated? It's going to be rated R for strong bloody violence, gore, and language. And that's all the news. I feel like there is something else, but I think that is going to be the news for the week. All right, comic books this week. At Image, there was Geiger 21. And I have to say, man, I really enjoyed this comic. We have the Northerner. So the Northerner we've seen in Redcoat. He's a time traveler basically, and he comes from an alternate reality where the South won the Civil War, right? And then he was shown how things were different, and then we don't know his whole story. Even though we've seen a lot of it, like we don't know who's in charge of it, because he gets weapons, he gets sent different places, and weapons are like transported to him, and so who's doing this, who's in charge of it. And for some reason he ends up in Geiger's time, and he's not really sure why he's there or what he's supposed to be doing. So they're like working together, and it's just there's something about it, like just the interaction between the two, and I'm just really, really digging it. And we got like a time traveling tank. So they sent a tank, and Northerner's name's in there, and Geiger's name's in there too. So it's like, wait, what's going on here? And it's just I don't know. I'm just really, really digging it. So you should be checking out this comic. We also from Image had Rockefellers number 12, and this was interesting because without giving too much away. So let's just say the person. So the Rockefellers are from the future. They're they're running from the future because the evil people want what they know and stuff like that. So they're basically like family on the run, and because trying to keep like certain tech out of the hands of the not good people and that, and without giving too much away. So there's been someone who's been tracking them, and there's this big thing. But now it's like, wait, what happened to the dad? Is he gone? Is he dead? And the person, well, I'll just say the person who's chasing them now suddenly, in this big aftermath or whatever, this interaction fight, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have their memory. And so that's kind of making things interesting. And yeah, so this is the other one that you should be checking this out. This is Peter Tomasi and Francis Manapul. I didn't mention, in case I have to mention, Geiger is Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. So these are both really good. I think that's all I read at Image. I also read Space Ghost. I think it was number 8, so volume 2, number 8. And it's been interesting, because I don't know if I've read the last issue or if I talked about the last issue. I might have read it like after I read it late, but so we have the kids, and they've been reunited with their grandfather, who's like a scientist and everything like that, and it's how he doesn't know that these kids are going off doing all this stuff with Space Ghost. As far as he knows, their parents were abducted and killed and everything like that. And he, like, at one point they're working on some stuff. He's like, oh, it's great to see you got the scientific mindset or whatever and that. But then we got like this antimatter man, and I'll just say we got this whole fight there, and interesting twists. I don't want to even hint at anything. So I've been enjoying that. I love the character for some reason, and I don't know if it's a nostalgia thing, because I watched, and they must have been old episodes when I was a kid, and I just thought he was just so cool. But I would not say I'm like a Space Ghost expert, even though I watch so many of them. Because reading these comics that David Pepos is writing, I've mentioned this before, but he pulls out all these characters and adds to them, whatever. So and I'm like, is this an actual character? Is this a new character he's created? And he's digging in and pulling out all these different characters who may have had like a little tiny appearance and giving them a backstory and just fleshing them out and stuff like that. But it's like some of these people, like, I didn't even know. I think I wasn't there like a Black Widow, the different Black Widow, but she was apparently in the cartoons. I don't remember that. Did I? Maybe I saw her, maybe not. But it's just like little things like that. I'm really digging that. So those have been fun. At Marvel, felt like there's a lot at Marvel. I don't know if I read everything. We had Cyclops #1. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. The X-Men comics are kind of, they're in the recovery stage from the Age of Revelation stuff, and whether you liked it or not, I did not like that. And so now we're setting off in a new direction or whatever. So this felt a little weird because it almost feels like, I was like, when was the last time I read an X-Men comic? It feels like it's been more than a month, but maybe it hasn't. So then, this starts off in the middle of a battle and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, there's Cyclops and Magic and Quentin and Juggernaut and everything. So it's just like it's weird how it's like out of nowhere, but I guess it's just fits in there. And then Cyclops, because this is Cyclops, I'm assuming this is a mini series. I don't think it's going to be an ongoing, but he goes off on his own mission because he's like ghost from the past. He's got to go take care of something, meet with someone. And so that's kind of interesting, the who it is and what it means to Cyclops's history or whatever you want to call it. But I guess it's fine. I don't know what I want. I don't know if I feel like I'm being a little harsher or harder than I need to be. Maybe this was a good comic, but I've just been so tired. I've been so unsatisfied with the X-Men comics, and I don't really know what I want. I don't even know like what direction I would want for the entire line. But that's fine. Oh, and then I guess I'll say this. So who do we have in here? We have friggin' Reavers. What's it? Piercy Ben? Was it Ben Piercy? No, not Ben Piercy. What's his name? I've never cared for him ever since we first saw him, like, wasn't during like the Dark Phoenix saga, like at the he was in the Hellfire Club, the Inner Circle, whatever. I've never cared for him. And Donald Pierce, that's it. I've never cared for him as a character, and just the constant, I don't know, something about like just taking people, and he hates mutants, but let's turn humans into these cyborg things that are barely even humans. Like, let's give this one guy, instead of a lower torso, he has like tractor treads. I don't know what that Reaver's name was. I think he's got new Reavers here. Yeah. And then something happens to Cyclops, which is, I would feel like he would have a contingency for this. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Oh, we have a new Moon Knight, Mark Spector Moon Knight volume something. I don't know if it's volume 2, number 1, volumes, whatever. So it's still Jed MacKay, thank goodness, because he's been doing. I mean, are there other people that can write Moon Knight? Sure, probably, but Jed has been doing such a great job. I mean, I feel like he's really like earned the right. As long as he wants to keep writing, and hopefully Marvel will keep letting him do this, because he's done so many different like directions almost for Moon Knight. He's done different things, and they've all been interesting, compelling, and have all fit together. So it's just been a lot of fun. And so here it starts off. It's like, wait, what the heck is going on with Mark and with Moon Knight? And he finds himself he's in a sticky situation, and yeah, it's as always, it's going to be interesting. Someone then shows up. We'll see how that goes, but you got to mix it up somehow. We got Wade Wilson, Deadpool. This is by Benjamin Piercy. Jeff Shaw does the art. Art. I dig the art. Ben Piercy, his writing sometimes are hit or miss with me, and he's a great writer. It's not always what I want. Like, some of his Wolverine stuff has been good. Some of it, there's something, I don't know, I can't really explain it. It doesn't work for me, but I'm assuming it works for a lot of people, because I feel like he's been writing Wolverine for a while, and so it must be selling. That's why they would keep him on the book, or the character. So he's writing Deadpool, and I mean, in a lot of ways, if you think about it, it's like, okay, let's bring Deadpool, because he's gone in so many different directions, and I feel like Deadpool, even though there's not like a lot of depth to him, I feel like it's really tricky. He could be tricky to write for. It's like, what are you going to do with him? Because you don't want him to be like a one-trick pony, and yeah, he's got to be cracking the jokes and stuff like that. That can get old, or that can get annoying really fast, and that's why a lot of people, I'm assuming, don't, or why some people don't like him. And then then you have his healing factor. That is often a story element, and then he's a mercenary. Is he a mercenary? Is he a hero? What type of job is he taking? Is he being selective and stuff like that? It's almost like he's been stripped back a little bit. Like, this is who Deadpool is. He's not mixed up in any big whatever shenanigans and stuff. And he's doing what he does. What's interesting is one thing that was mentioned. He gets like shot in the head, shot in the eye, and in the brain or whatever. And they're like, good thing he's got his healing factor back. So it's like, I thought his healing factor was split with his daughter. So it's like, where's his daughter at? Because they've been hanging out, and I've been enjoying that. Being the father of a daughter. So like, okay, I don't mind Deadpool having a daughter now with powers, and them going on missions, even though she shouldn't be doing certain things or whatever. So it's like, did they just write her off or something like that? We get a glimpse. So there's something. That's a story that needs to be told. That will be told, I'm assuming, soon, maybe. But overall, I mean, am I excited for the second issue? Not really. Will I read it? Probably, because I do like Deadpool. But yeah, it's just Deadpool for me. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've been like super excited for Deadpool. But yeah, so at least I mean, I guess I would have to say it's going in the right direction. But that direction maybe is getting a little tiny bit stale for me. I don't know. Then we have Alien versus Captain America. What number was this? Number 4? It feels like it's been more than 4. This is the final issue, and things get crazy. And I really enjoyed this. I do have to say it's good that this is the last issue, because it has been getting it feels like it's been stretched a little bit. It's like, okay, this is a cool idea. It's been going on. It feels like it's been going on longer than 4 issues or whatever. And some things are just a bit much, like with what Red Skull does. But with Arnim Zola there, I do like the fact that there's like some modern stuff mixed in, like the World War II era, and or having like Captain Marvel like here, right? That is him, right? And just different things, and just seeing Cap and Nick Fury and Howling Commandos fighting aliens, and Bucky, and yeah, so it was cool. And then I will say, as this ends things, obviously this is not like the Marvel universe. It's established a different direction, even though things will be pretty much whatever lined up. But just the fact that, like, okay, humans or whatever, Americans know like the Kree exist. They know that there's aliens out there. So that kind of changes things. And it's like, what is that going to mean when they, are they going to, is there going to be a race to the moon? Is there any point going to the moon when they know that there's aliens and spaceships? And and by aliens I don't just mean like the xenomorph aliens. So it'd be interesting to see like what happens to the rest of this Marvel universe. I'll say that even though it's an ending, it is like what does this mean? With what we see in the last few pages, it's like they could do something, and I would be curious to see where that goes. We had Planet She-Hulk #4. I didn't read this because I'm going to say mainly because of time. I was like, I don't have time to read this. I'm not super excited to read this. I really like She-Hulk. I don't really care for this Planet She-Hulk, the Scar, and then this kind of like intergalactic stuff. So I don't know. It's just the battle for the politics of the planet. That's fine and everything, but I do find it a little interesting seeing how She-Hulk's dealing with it because she's a lawyer, she's very calm and everything, but she's also on this planet where there's no room for that, and so she's kind of leaning a little more on her Hulkness, her savageness, but she's not a savage. And then the last issue ended with she needs a fight, the whatever dudes like warrior or person, and it's Jack of Hearts. Like, wait, how does that even happen? Because Jack of Hearts was hanging out with She-Hulk, they were dating, and then now they're supposed to fight each other, which seems silly, but so yeah, I will check it out. I just didn't get to it. There was a Ultimate X-Men. I didn't read that. We had Star Wars Jar Jar #1 by Mark Guggenheim, and I think someone else might have read. Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar. It was fine. For some reason I know people hate Jar Jar, and I feel like that's too much. Yes, he was annoying, but whatever. Maybe he wasn't created or written for you. That's fine. That he exists. I'm sure lots of people enjoy him. This is an interesting story, seeing Jar Jar do what he does, and I do think it does kind of. I mean, does it redeem him in any way? Not maybe, but it does kind of elevate him a little more. And because say what you will about Jar Jar, he helped out a lot, and while maybe a lot of it was accidental with his, does he have like some sort of good luck superpower, that he was able to survive and due to the damage that he's done and everything. So we get a little more than that, and he does play a role in, I'll just say he ends up helping save someone, and then when we were like, who is this person supposed to be? And then when you hear who it is, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. That means something. Because if Jar Jar wasn't there, that would have a huge impact on stuff that happens later. That's all I'm going to say. We also have I forget the Jedi's name, who was played by Ahmed Best. He got to play a different character too. Pretty sure, right? I don't think I'm crazy about that. So it was fine. It's probably better than you might be like. I'm not going to read a Jar Jar comic, but it had its value and everything. One World Under Doom. I don't know. I didn't read this. I didn't get to it, and I'm just looking at like thumbnails on that, so I don't know the full title about this, and I don't know anything about it. So I'll have to check that out before next week, hopefully. We have Venom 254. Man, I'm trying to root for this comic. I love Mary Jane. I think she's a great character. Mary Jane as Venom. It's a gimmick. I mean, say what you will, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick that I'm enjoying because there's no way. I don't know how they're gonna solve this, but because the thing is, Mary Jane and Venom are bonded. They had to be bonded so each could survive. So that means she can't just decide, okay, here you go, someone else, you can be Venom now. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. She can't do that. So if they are going to ever separate them, they got to figure something around it. We got this Spider-Man Spiral whatever crossover thing coming up. Is Eddie Brock is with Carnage symbiote, which is crazy, and I don't like that. But again, that's also an interesting development to shake things up. So, and I'm fine with it because I'm not like emotionally invested in Carnage or Venom. I can't stand them. I'm so tired of them. And it's not that I have anything really against them. I will say, I gave my kids, so they have silent sustained reading, every day for like 15 minutes before lunch. And so I have my homeroom or whatever, and they don't always read. They have the options like work on your homework or read. I would prefer they would read. Some kids do. Some kids don't do anything. They'll sit there, and I'm like, man, you got to get something out. You got to do something. You're not going to sit here and talk. That being said, a student was wearing a Venom shirt, and then this other student sitting behind was like, who's Venom? Or there must have been something like that. So the student with the Venom shirt was like, hey, can you tell her like who Venom is? Explain it, because and so I was like, yeah. And I went through the whole spiel. I was like, okay, it started off, Spider-Man ended up on this other planet by this godlike being called the Beyonder. And he was from this entire other dimension, and there was this thing, there's a rip through. He got to see how humans interacted. So he makes this planet, and he's so fascinated with like humans and good and bad. So he's like, defeat your enemy or slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. So he has the power to give them anything. And first she's like, what, why? And then I was like, and then during a battle, there's the smart guy in the Fantastic Four, because I'm not gonna mention names. They don't necessarily know that. He needed a new costume, and there's like there's that room, and this little ball formed on him, and it made this black costume, because there's a Spider Woman there who had a costume similar. And then, but I was like, but this costume could respond to his thoughts. He wants short sleeves, and make short sleeves. He wants it to look like regular clothes. He can't. And they're like, whoa, surprised by this. I was like, yeah. So then, blah, 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 he goes back to Earth. And then the guy from the Fantastic Four, he's like, hey, I'm curious. I'd like to check that out. And then I was like, do you know what a symbiote is? It feeds off each other. And the dude's like, you got to take that off. That's a symbiote. It's going to take you over. And then he couldn't do it. So then the Human Torch uses fire or whatever, blasts it. And then I go across the room. I was like, that's why. Blah, blah. I walk over and grab my Bombastic Bagman Funko Pop that is on a shelf in my room. I was like, that's where the Bombastic Bagman. I was like, oh, I also told him, because Spider-Man was left in his whitey tighties. I got to mention it. So I said he got the bag of costume in the bag and everything. And then I mentioned how the costume came back after him, and it tricked him, because I was like, Spider-Man had a girlfriend who made him a black costume because she liked it better. And then the symbiote costume attacks him. They fight, or they're going across the town, end up at the church tower. The bells go off. He passes out, and then the costume saves him. And then Eddie Brock, this other guy, comes in. He's a reporter. He writes this article about a serial killer's identity, but then it turns out he was wrong. Spider-Man captures a real guy, so this guy loses his job, and his wife left him. He goes to church, and I was like, and he was like really desperate, was thinking about ending things, and so then, he hates Spider-Man, and the symbiote senses it, so it joins forces with him, and then becomes Venom, and he wants to eat his brains and everything like that. And they're like, but I thought Venom was good. I was like, yeah, then he becomes a lethal protector. And they're like, what? I was like, that's what they call him. Like, there's a part, he was in San Francisco, and there's all these homeless, and he's like trying to save, protect them and everything. I was like, and then the symbiote had a baby. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, that's the Nurse Carnage. He made another symbiote. But then this one, it bonded with a hardcore, extreme serial killer. And yeah, I think that's as far as I went. I was like, but Venom's kind of good and everything. And I was like, and they did some movies, have nothing to do with Spider-Man, but you can watch it, with Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson. So I gave, yeah. And then the client, and then I felt bad because a couple other students had their hand raised, like had a question over math. But I'm like, I'm on a roll here. I mean, it was a math class. So yeah, that's basically what I told. There's your Venom recap in case you're like, who is Venom? I'm sure you all know that. But that's basically word for word what I told my class. So they're very lucky to be informed, I guess. I don't know. But with the Venom comic, so it's interesting. I'm not on any cough syrups or cough formula drugs or anything, but I feel like I'm a little wonkier now. Just having so many cough drops is getting to me. I just feel like, I love that they renumbered the series. So this is what it was, 254. But part of me, I was like, I wish it had the regular number, because I was like, how long has this been going on? How long has Mary Jane been Venom? Because I am so incredibly tired of Madame Mask. It's like, oh my goodness, she's here, but then wait, she's also fighting Iron Man? It's like, what the heck? And the fact that she's just so immensely annoying, and I hate the fact that she knows Venom is Mary Jane, because I don't like when villains know the secret identity, because they would be stupid not to use it. And, she's threatening, Venom, Mary Jane with that. But it's like you got Madame Mask in this, like, suit of armor, like this armored suit. And, it just, and it looks weird because, she's got her mask, her metal mask, and she's in a suit. And it's just, yeah. So I'm just, and then you got all these other people like, well, what are we going to do about Madame Mask or Venom? And I don't know. Then we had Black Cat. Number 7. I love this issue. This was great. There is something, Mary Jane is in this issue, Mary Jane Venom. There is something about Black Cat and Mary Jane. I don't know what it is. It's such a great dynamic, and it's so, you would never think that would work. It's so weird to have, two of Spider-Man's exes being like such good friends, but in other ways, they have that common bond or whatever. And the first time they did it, it's like Mary Jane didn't have powers, so it was a little weird. Not that, Felicia has her good luck powers, but she has the skills to be a superhero. She has the stamina, or whatever you want to call it. And then Mary Jane got her jackpot powers. Okay, that levels it a little bit. And now with Venom, it's a weird thing, but I just love the dynamic between them two. And I would absolutely constantly read like a ongoing team up with the two. We had the miniseries, at least one, right? Yeah. So basically, what's going on here? It's kind of a silly premise, but I don't care. Mary Jane, she goes to Felicia for help, and we get a glimpse of Felicia, like, her like bedtime routine, basically, or like face mask on and stuff like that. So it's like very unglamorous, but very human, realistic, whatever. So Mary Jane is going to her for help because she did this tape like early on, and she thought she destroyed all copies. And and Black Cat's like, oh, is it a spicy one? She's like, no. But I guess Mary Jane would be very embarrassed or something like that. So someone's kind of blackmailing her, and so she wants Felicia's help to. The tape is apparently in this like high secured vault thing, so she wants her help to get it. But the kicker is this vault secure place is somehow in the negative zone. It's like, what is going on? So they're gonna have to try to go there. I just hope we find out like what is on this tape, because to go through all this, yeah. We also had Amazing Spider-Man Torn. I forget what issue number this was. I think this is the last one, and it was good. I can't say I necessarily loved the story, the character, what's her name, the villain, if you want to call her that. But there's some interesting things with like Harry and MJ and Gwen, and I enjoyed this. That this was like sort of like in the past, but it's like, because it was J. Michael Straczynski. He did some interesting things to kind of like flesh things up or whatever. So I enjoyed that. Spider-Man Noir number 5. This was the whole thing. This has been kind of weird that Gwen Stacy hires Peter to investigate. Like, so the whole thing was without. This is like first issue. Spider-Man's fighting this gang, and then he shoots a guy that's coming after him. So it's kind of like self-defense. Turns out it was George Stacy. So it's like, why is George Stacy in this like evil gang? Is he undercover? What's going on? So Gwen hires Peter to investigate, like who killed her father? What happened? How was he killed? And then when she finds out it's Spider-Man, she wants to bring she wants to go after Spider-Man and stuff like that. But Peter and Gwen start dating in the midst of this. So, that makes things kind of weird. And, she wants to get a revenge against Spider-Man, but Peter can't tell her that he's Spider-Man. And it's weird because, like, Aunt May and Mary Jane, they know the secret, and they're like, you should tell her. But it's like, that's a tricky thing. It's like, you start dating someone, you can't just say, oh, here's all my secrets. Here's, like, my biggest secret about my secret identity. We just started dating. Is this going to, you hope that the relationship's going to last? No one goes, I don't think people go into dating in a dating relationship like, all right, this might last a week, a month, a year, but it's not going to be forever. We're going to break up. But that's what you have to kind of consider, that what happens if you do. You can't say, oh, I'm Spider-Man, and then, 2 weeks later you break up. So, yeah, Spider-Man has to figure out a way, and there could be a solution to that in here, and yeah, so we got that. And then I think that was it at Marvel. Then at DC, we had Absolute Wonder Woman 2026 Annual, and it's Kelly Thompson. This was amazing, and I just love, like, the sort of, I mean, it feels like, Wonder Woman, her roots, are a little different, because she's got the God stuff, and then she's got some magic stuff. So that kind of adds, like, a different layer to her. Basically, I don't know, it's not really spoiler, but she wants to try to save Medusa, because, Medusa's been cursed, and Wonder Woman with her lasso, she kind of took the form of Medusa. She's like, I know what Medusa's going through, and that's horrible. It's like, we need to like save her, so she's, trying to appeal and, whatever, and see, is there anything she can do? And she has, in order to go on this journey, she has to, like, sacrifice a lot, like give up, like, her powers or whatever, even if it's temporarily. And so it's a really, it was enjoyable. DC KO number 4. Oh, I was so ready for this to be over. This is not for me. I mean, it's like a large part of this. What this series is basically about. It's like, let's have these heroes fight each other to the death, or these hero and villain, or villain and villain, or villain and hero, and it's just, I don't. To me, it feels like such a massive gimmick, and maybe it is, but I'm guessing people like it. That's fine. I don't know what that says about them, and I don't know what that says about me. And I'm not trying to be like I'm some, like, comic schnob or whatever, but I feel like maybe I'm just getting older, and, like, that stuff, I don't necessarily care about that. And maybe when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I want to see, But I don't know. I've never. I mean, like Marvel versus DC. Yeah, that was cool because it was new and fresh. But some of these teams, I feel like that's like such a superhero cliche. You got two heroes meet each other, they fight because there's some misunderstanding, and then they end up teaming up. This is sort of taking that idea, but it's like, oh no, someone they have to fight to the death. While are they really dead? Well, obviously things are going to be reset because you can't kill off half all these people and everything. But it's just, it hasn't been for me. And what we have here is heroes fighting the absolute universe. We got absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Is that it? I guess it's just a 3. Because then you have Booster, who is possessed, and it's just, so they're fighting against Superman, Wonder Woman, Lex, and someone else shows up, which I don't know if that's a spoiler. And yeah, well, I guess one thing I'll say, this is a spoiler, but I've seen it, like, flat out spoiled on different websites. Batman, so Batman found a way. He lost. Joker killed him, like in the first issue. he found like a loophole sort of to deal with that, and that's where he's been in that other miniseries, which is, I don't even remember what it's called. It was weird. So he comes back, and spoiler, he ends up killing Joker. And I know Batman should never kill the Joker. And it just seems like such an insult to who the character is. And, maybe you can say, well, he's not really killing him because, Joker will be, reborn or revived or whatever, or reset. But it's like, and how does Batman kills him from behind? It's like a sucker punch. He impales him from behind. But it's like, okay, if you're getting the drop on Joker peering behind him, teleporting in or whatever you want to call it, you just knock him out, hit him upside the head. But just to kill him, I mean, it's just so un-Batman, and it's so, I don't know. It's just, whatever, it is not my line of comics. I have no say in it, but I don't care for that. That as much as I was on the fence about this series or not crazy about it, this makes me like I hate this series. Or it makes me want to say I think this is dumb. That being said, that is my opinion, and I am not saying if you're like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's a lot of people want to see that. And this is a way to get around the thing, like the Batman no killing rule, that we can have it, even if it's not gonna set. I refuse to accept that. I don't care if there's a loophole. I don't care if it's not really happening. It's just, yeah. So, yeah, I'm assuming I'm in the minority, and I'm not being a prude or anything like about that. But to me, I just feel like that is Batman's hard line. He does not kill. And that's why even sometimes, as much as I love Jason Todd, I feel like Batman would have a stronger stance against Jason Todd, just flat out killing people, even though he's been through, whatever. So there you go. It's not over yet. Then there's Action Comics 1095. I enjoyed this. What I without spoiling things, because we're getting like a look into Superboy, his past and stuff like that. As you can see, probably tell on the cover, it looks like someone's piecing together that Superboy and Clark Kent are the same thing, which seems like pretty obvious. It's like, for Superboy to be hanging around Smallville so much, it's like, and it's almost like, Clark is not that much of a disguise, and, yeah, but someone seems to be piecing things together, and they're not really happy about that. So I'll just say that I enjoyed that. There was Batman and Robin number 30. Maybe I should have checked this out. I didn't care for like the last couple story arcs, so I was like kind of waiting for it to be over. This might be, I don't know if this is the start of a new story arc, if this is self-contained, but again, it was a matter of time because, yeah, I'm trying to read comics just like you. Comics come out on Wednesday, and sometimes I don't have early access to DC, so I can't read everything. That is my lame excuse. Then we have Green Lantern Corps number 13. I didn't read this. I hate to say it, but I've kind of, when I saw this was coming out, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to read it. And that just really bothers me because I've loved Green Lantern. I mean, I wore like a Green Lantern sterling silver ring for the longest time. And I was like on this hunt to find like just like the really, an actual ring that wasn't like incredibly big and gaudy that I could like wear all the time. And I wore it forever, not forever, but so I've always, from the first time I saw like the extended Super Friends episodes where you had Green Lantern and the Flash and that, I just thought he was so cool. But I don't know what it is, but this, I'm glad things are, we have an actual Green Lantern Corps. They're not with the Federation of Planets or whatever, United Nations of Planets, but there's just something about it that it's just hard for me to get into. And I don't know if there's just too much going. I just can't pinpoint what is a turn off for me. Why is it making it hard? Or maybe because I feel like there's too much going on, and it's like I have to read, all these different books, or I don't know what it is. We had Supergirl number 10. I would have liked to read that. I do like the fact that there's a thought balloon, word bubble on the cover, but it was just a matter of time I didn't get to it. And that's all I read. It's because I'm not reading Immortal, Legend of Batman. I haven't read Aquaman. Read issue 14. I read the first issue, and it didn't catch me, whatever. So I have no idea where this has been going. There's Sirens, Love Hurts number 1. Yeah, so that was it. Court, Children of the Round Table. I would like to read that at some point. But that is it. That is comic books for the week. All right, we have reached the final episode of Fallout. So Fallout Season 2, Episode 8, The Strip. And I have to say, I don't mean to sound bad, but I'm just really surprised how much I like this show. It's just, I'm interested in the story, and I have no idea what's going to happen. We got a lot going on, and it's just different things. So I'm just really surprised because I think back to the first season. I watched the first episode. It's like, yeah, this is cool. I hate to say it, but I think I just kind of got turned off by the fact that like all episodes were available. So it was just that overwhelming feeling. It's like, well, I can't watch all this at once. I do not have time to binge an entire series. I guess I'll watch it later. And I know that seems silly and everything, but yeah. So that's just how it works. And I ended up, as I mentioned before, I ended up buying the 4K, the Steelbook for this because physical media matters, even though, I could watch it on Prime. And as I watched the show, I did watch a couple episodes, together, on a weekend or whatever. And I enjoyed it. So I'm just really surprised. And it's a bummer that the show's over because I'm just really curious where they're going to go. I've not played a single, game. I know nothing but the game. And I'm just like so invested in this. So I'm just really glad that we have this. And I'm looking forward to season 3. I have no idea when it's going to come out. I'm assuming it's happening. I'm pretty sure it's confirmed. But let's just get started. So this is a final episode of season 2. Now I'm a little questioning myself. I think the Legion is that the Roman dudes, the Kaiser guys. I think they're the Legion. I that's what I was thinking. But now I'm kind of, because there's a Legion and there's an Enclave that is mentioned. So I think they're the Legion. All those guys they're fighting themselves because we got the two different groups. Who's going to be the next Kaiser, the next Caesar? But they're saying they call it Kaiser. And then we see Lacerta, Macaulay Culkin. They finally got to the body of the whatever leader, and he's got in his pocket, he's got the name of who the successor should be, and that was like the big fight. No one could get close to the body because anytime someone tried going there, the other side would start shooting at them or whatever. So somehow he's got the body. He drags it inside a tent. He finds a note with who the next Kaiser will be. He unfolds it. There's this other guy in there who's like, what's it say? Lacerta kind of gets an upset look on his face. The note, the little thing says, I am Kaiser. I am the Legion. It ends with me. So then Lacerta folds it back up, and it says, Kaiser is dead. Long live Kaiser. And he stabs a guy in the gut. He hears some voices outside, so he shoves a note in his mouth. And then he takes the kind of like golden crown, the leaf crown thing. He puts it on. He walks out of the tent. And then the people out there, they start chanting for him. And he addresses them. He's like, together we will reclaim the Holy Land that they call Vegas. There we will build a palace worthy of our empire. Kaiser's Palace. Now to New Vegas. And they start chanting and they leave. In Vegas, at the Lucky 38 Hotel, the computer Robert House, he says to Ghoul, so we saw this last time, he's like, well, hello, old chum. Ghoul stares at House's face on the screen, and Robert, he's like, what did I tell you when we first met? He's like, the House always wins. Winning might be overrated, Robert, because them swimming pools outside used to be full. And he's like, well,
I will say this much. It's good to be alive again. Over the years, my body became something of a target for wandering travelers with something to prove. I have been poisoned, shot, bludgeoned with a crowbar. And in the secret room with the diode starts closing, but without looking, Gould just like, he stops the door by putting his big gun in there so it can't close on it, kind of like a big elevator door, sort of. Then he says to Robert, he's like, shut the fudge up. He's like, the diode. And he's like, what about it, old friend? And Gould looks like in the other room with the machine, like through the crack between the doors. He's like, what happens if I shoot this thing? Unclear. There's only ever been one of them, so it would be fresh snow from a scientific standpoint. But if it were to expel all of its energy simultaneously, the damage would likely extend to other planets. So I would exercise extreme caution. And Gould's like, well, most people ain't got poop to live for anyways. Let's cut to the chase. Where's my family? Why didn't you tell me there was a vault for management in Vegas? Because you hadn't yet brought me the diode. So then he sighs. I tell you what, you get me in that vault and I'll leave your batteries on. We got a deal, Bob? Absolutely. But in order to show you the way, you'll have to wear one of these. So a drawer opens with a Pip-Boy on there and his face is on the screen, Robert House. Like it or not, Mr. Howard, everyone works for me, eventually. So the death claw that knocked Maximus through the fence, like down into the other side of the town. People are in the streets, they're staring. Maximus in armor, he gets up. Thaddeus runs. He's like, coming through, coming through. He's carrying like a rifle and his arm just fell off. The death claw roars. It steps like foot over like the line of defense. Maximus tells Thaddeus to stay behind. There's another big roar. People start screaming and panicking now. So Maximus tells people, it's like, go inside, go. Then he turns and he like plants himself down. He gets ready. There's a beeping. And then it's like, he's like, what? And then it's like, weapons activated. And he smiles. He's like, hot dog. So some little missiles fire out of his back, like shoulder, whatever. And it blows up. One of the death claws. There another charges at him. He kind of flies up a bit and he shoots it. It explodes. So people watch from the insides of the shop, including Dog Meat. He's so cute. Another death claw comes and starts like slashing at him. Thaddeus says himself that he wishes that he could help. Some dude says, like, you only got one arm. It's like, what are you going to do? And Thaddeus is like, well, someone's got to do something. And this guy's like, nah. And then more death claws start coming. Lucy stands in the mainframe room. She looks at the severed head. There's like wires attached to it. There's like old-timey, like reel-to-reel, like supercomputers, whatever, on the sides. She walks forward. She looks a little sad at seeing this head. And so here's the thing. When I first saw this, I was like, is that Will Zigg's head, whatever? Was it Michael Emerson? I was like, because he got his head chopped off, right? I don't remember who took the head. I was like, but it doesn't look like him. It's like, okay, if it's been chopped off for a while, it just looked kind of fake, and like the hair is really big and everything. I was like, is this just like? So I was like confused. I was like, but it doesn't really look like him. So she's kind of sad and everything. She sees his head sitting there, but then she gets startled and jumps back a bit because the head like gurgles and gasps, and she's like, "Are you alive?" And there's like just distorted groaning, and so then Lucy's like, "Okay, so kinda." And then in a distorted voice, kill me. And she's like, what? Kill me. And she's like, oh, please, no. Kill me. And she's like, no, look, we can patch you up, maybe. There's no telling with the miracles of science these days. Kill me. And she's like, no, I can't. I must kill. She's like, no, gosh, why does everybody always want me to kill them all the time? Kill me, please. Stop him. Kill me. She raises a crowbar in her hand. Must kill me, must kill me. She's like, shut up. She brings a crowbar down on top of the head. And I mean, there's like a metal, like head thing, cap, but so she brings down. And then like the computers on the side stop. So I don't know if the head was running the computers. At the other place, Norm is being dragged away. Claudia is like trying to get them to stop. Ronnie says to Norm's like, you lied to us. And it's like, you have no one to blame but yourself. Claudia continues trying to tell them to stop. Norm says he's like, let go of me. Ronnie's like, oh, don't worry. He's like, you'll get a fair trial. This is America after all. And Claudia's like, what are you going to do to him? And Ronnie says to her that, she's like, you're not one of us either. You only got this job last week. So she manages to shove aside one of the guys dragging Norm, but then Ronnie turns around and shoves her against the wall, like in a hall. She like bangs her head. And the elevator arrives, and then they all stop and stare as it opens. But then there's like no elevator car in there. This lady kind of slowly looks down. She's like, there's nothing there. I guess the roaches really don't get that big. After one big giant roach jumps at her, slashes her throat. More jump out, and then the group starts screaming and shouting. They start running. Norm like uses an office chair kind of as like a shield, so he's kind of like hiding behind it. The one kind of trying to attack him, the roach, it like moves towards the others. He gets up and runs after them, even though he's like he could have run the other way and had like a better chance. He picks like a trash can. He knocks one roach off a guy that's like on his back. Ronnie's like holding the door open to like this conference room, and Norm comes running up. He's like, "Not you." Norm tells him, he's like, "Get out of the way," and Ronnie like, shoves him down. And he's like, "There's no room." And he's like, so he's like, "You're not getting in." As he tries closing the door, the giant roaches start like pushing their way through. Norm crawls under this little like coffee table, and there's like a waiting area. There's like with a little sofa or whatever, and the door slowly shuts with the all inside. So the roaches are like attacking everyone in there. So they went in there to hide. They're getting attacked. Robert House talks to Ghoul on the Pit Boy as he moves on. Vault Tech wanted me an impenetrable vault buried half a mile below the city, but I was always one step ahead. And he's like, I rigged every aspect of the city so I could protect its future. I rigged every slot machine, every roulette wheel. Turn left. And Ghoul is like, he's going through like some underground like building tunnels or whatever. I even rigged their impenetrable vault for management. He's like, is that so? But I miscalculated because this vault belongs not to Vault Tech, but to their investors. I never fathomed there could be someone one step ahead of me until I saw your demon in the snow. And we see Maximus, he's still fighting Death Claws. He manages to slice the arm off of one, and then it tries like chomping like on his head. He blows up with a rocket. He shoots another one, but then it hits the ground like right in front of him. His armor's like beeping now. And then I think like his wrist rockets aren't working, so is he out of ammo? Inside the shop's like the one guy who said nah when Thaddeus said they gotta do something. I guess his name is Shotgun Jeff, according to the closed caption or the X-ray thing. They're still watching, and then he's like, 50 caps. He goes down in the next 5 minutes. Another person's like, I'll put 20 on 3. So more bets are being made. Thaddeus just keeps watching. Then he moves towards the center of the room with his arm. He's like, hey. They're not really listening. He drops his arm on the floor, and somehow that gets everyone to quiet down. And so Thaddeus is like, 500 says he wins. This one lady's like, those are steep odds, kid. And Shotgun Jeff says, he ain't got no 50 caps. So Thaddeus unhooks something like, and then a bunch of caps start like pouring out of his pant leg. He's like, count it, losers. I used to make money for a living. So Shotgun Jeff's like, all right, here we go. And bets continue. Dog meat just barks, looking out the window. Lucy walks out of the Vault Tech building. But she's not outside. She's like in this other area. It's like, it's like she's not outside, but she's outside in this like patio, whatever area. So she's still in the yellow dress. She's carrying a crowbar. And then it cuts to Robert's voice. He's talking to Ghoul. When it came to predicting the end of the world, I was off by just a smidge. But when it came to controlling the future, I was wholly outclassed by an invisible adversary. It was they who set the death claws on Vegas. There's another shot. And Lucy's like, she's like breathing heavy like on a railing. Robert's voice continues, and now one of their acolytes is here in this very building. So then Hank comes up behind her. Why'd you go and do that, Lucy? And she turns around, and we can see like a little blood splattered on the front of her dress. And he's like, Robert House wanted to turn human beings into machines, erase their memories, make them suggestible enough to follow his orders. He's like, Robert, he was a bit of a robot himself. And who wants to live in a world full of robots? So, he sighs, what I was trying to do was add a little personality to his product. So Lucy's like, who is she? So the head, it was a woman's head. And he's like, Congresswoman Diane Welch from Glendale. So that at this point, this is like, okay, it wasn't Will Zig.
And then I went back, I like rewound it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely the Congresswoman. So I felt like such a dope. I just thought it was like just bad prosthetic. I was like, what is going on here? So Hank's like, ISTP on the old Meyer-Briggs, which is still the gold standard for personnel. Ideal personality to scale with the kind of attributes that we could stand to see more of out there in the world. If you ask me, and she's like staring at him confused, well-meaning, sweet, non-threatening. And she's like, then why would you do that to her? And he's like, well, Daddy's job is complicated, sweetie. Robert Voice's voice on the Pit Boy with Ghoul says, the Enclave's eyes are everywhere. You should know, Mr. Howard, 200 years ago, you delivered that diode into their possession yourself. You helped bring forth the greatest threat to the wasteland. And you were their unwitting servant. Ghoul's like, I am what I am. And Robert House is like, is that what you'll tell your family if you find them? So there's a flashback. Cooper gets a drink and he toasts with his wife. I think they're like at the airport, kind of like in a whatever waiting area. But it's people walking around with drinks. They're still in Vegas because you still see slot machines. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, they weren't like in a hotel lobby. Hank calls out to Coop and he runs up to him. I think he had like luggage. So yeah, maybe. And he's like, you make one heck of a wingman. And he chuckles, and then we see Stephanie walk out behind him, and she's like, hello again. Hank's like, I still don't know what you said, but it worked. And then she's like, can you believe it? We talked all night, and at 4 a.m, this little romantic proposed. And Hank's like, laughs. And he's like, she has a truly unbelievable resume for a hotel maid. I'm hoping Mr. Askins can find a job for her. Barb smiles. She's like, maybe. And congratulations to you both. And then she looks at Cooper. And Cooper's like, congratulations. Stefan like chuckles. And then Hank's like, oh, my parents are going to kill me. And she's like, oh, come on, you. They walk off. And then Barb's like, am I crazy? Or did we just come out of Vegas a couple of winners? They walk past one of Cooper's like Vault Tech signs, thumbs up thing, whatever. Don't wait until it's too late. Then there's another like sign for the Lucky 38 Hotel, Robert House's. There's like, there's like, he shows a casino, picture of fake Robert House to decoy. And then he walked by some payphones, and it's just like, okay, just weird check, because they weren't in phone booths anymore. And Cooper stares at them, and then one phone starts ringing. And we don't find out like what that deal is until later in the episode. So Gould continues walking. Lucy is like, what's your end game with all of this? And Hank's like, miniaturization. It's the wave of the future. Soon, we won't know who's been automated and who hasn't. You'll just have a little scar on your neck. He takes out a handkerchief with a tiny little neck device, which is like, it's like smaller than his thumbnail. And then a door opens up, and one of the brainwashed dudes, I think we've seen him before. He's like one of the warrior, or whatever, not warriors. He's some big dude. He comes up to them. And he kind of looks menacingly at Lucy, but he's wearing like the shirt and tie, whatever. And Hank's like, other than that, you'll be my little girl again. So she looks at the little device and she looks at his face. She's like, you're insane. And he's like, you don't mean that. And if you do, very soon you won't. The worker dude glares at her, starts moving forward. She whacks him like in the face with a crowbar. And I would think like normally one blow is all it takes to send someone down. He like just goes down to one knee, and then she tries hitting him again, but then he grabs her wrist with his left hand, and he grabs her throat with his right. Hank looks like a tiny bit upset, but it's like, dude, your daughter's getting choked now. And then she just like tries screaming, but she can't. Gould reaches a big metal door. It kind of like swings open. Then he sees a big Vault Tech building, and House says, your family's cryo chambers are on sub-level 7. Maximus fights the Deathclaws. Dog meat barks like inside the shop. Alarms are going off in his suit. It's like starting to malfunction. There's like sparks and stuff like that. Inside, they're all like watching. The Deathclaw like grabs him. The person running the bet's like, if he loses, we're all dead, right? And one dude's like, I'm still in for 20. The betting continues. Maximus manages to knock I think it was a steel girder. Is either a steel girder, like big plank of wood. He like swipes it and it like stabs and like impales a Deathclaw. It falls over. He staggers. He gets ready for the next one. He like cuts it
because he's got like a blade on his forearm. He cuts it, but it still slashes or hits him back, causes some more sparks out of him. More alarms start blaring. It tries to grabbing him, but then it gets shot. Maximus looks up. Thaddeus managed to shoot it. So he's sitting on a rooftop. He's like holding a rifle, and like the end of the rifle is like he's holding with his toes. It's because since he only has one arm, he gives Maximus a thumbs up. Maximus sighs and whispers, he's like, "Thank you." He gives a thumbs up back. Deathclaws roar. One grabs him from behind, knocks him down with a punch. Thaddeus tries like reloading, but he's only got one arm. And it starts like chomping on Maximus. He like closes his eyes, and then it cuts to like Hank. He loaded up the little tiny device in a little tool. The brainwashed dude is holding Lucy down, and Hank's like, "We can start over, Lucy." And she's like, tries struggling. He moves over to insert it. There's like a whooshing, and then like it's kind of like a squidgy thud, like noise. The worker dude holding Lucy, he goes down. So Ghoul is there. He threw his knife at the back of the dude's head. I think that's what happened. It was a little dark. He pulls out a gun, and he shoots Hank, kind of like, sort of like in the buttock, in the butt. And he like kind of goes down, and Hank's like, "Come on." And Ghoul's like, "If it was up to me, it wouldn't be your ass bleeding out all over the floor. But it ain't up to me." Then he slides this little like pistol to Lucy. She picks it up. He's like, "What say you, Vaulty?" And he gives her a little like hat salute, like flick or whatever, and then he walks off. So she looks at the pistol, looks at her dad, looks at the little device sitting on the railing. Maximus lies on the ground. His suit is like shorting out. There's sparks. Maximus, he closes his eyes. He thinks back to his dad when he was a kid, like hugging him, like the day of the explosion. His dad's like, "One day you will be a good man." And he grunts. He like rolls over. Then he starts like crawling out of the suit. He like exits because I guess he can't do anything with the suit anymore. Thaddeus, from the rooftop, he's like, "Max, no!" Deathclaws roar. He tries getting up, stumbles a little bit. He crawls back a little bit, gets up. He grabs, there's like a big roulette wheel. He kind of uses it as a shield, along with like a big stick. And he moves like to the middle of the street. He holds the stick up. And inside the shot, that dude, Shotgun Jeff, he sees him. He's just a damn kid. And he moves and he grabs a shotgun. That's why his name is Shotgun Jeff. Then to the other, she's like, "Come on." He's like, "Let's take back our town." The lady taking a bet, she's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." The Deathclaws roar at Maximus. He can barely stand. Thaddeus he's still like frantically trying to reload with his one arm. Then the music kind of swells. We see bright sun. A figure steps in front of the suit. There's someone in big armor with a huge rifle. I was like, "Wait, who's coming? Who's here?" This was a flashback. I'm assuming, yeah, because this is one the memory when Maximus was a kid. But at first, I was kind of confused. I was like, "What's going on here?" So it was just because it's like super quick flashback. Then in the present, he yells, "Come on!" The Deathclaw gives a huge roar, like "Rah!" It starts to charge towards him, and then there's a gunshot. It goes down. Maximus sighs. He's like a little confused. He looks up at Thaddeus on the rooftop, and Thaddeus like points to himself. He's like, "No." And then he points like to over. There's this other dude with like a helmet, sort of like a gas mask on, and like a sniper, big fancy sniper rifle, like the kind with the little stand at the end, so you can just like hold it up, whatever it's called. So he fires another shot. It's like slow motion, and it just like goes out, hits another Deathclaw on the head, blasts away like kind of like the top of its head, like one of its horns. It goes down. Maximus looks up. There's like a whistle blows. More soldiers start marching like down the street. They're carrying like New California Republic flag. And I was like, is this the same person leading? But they're led by Fireside Croupier, which according to the X-ray. And Croupier's like, "We got it from here." More Deathclaws roar, and Maximus like, "Yeah, that's probably a good idea." Hank hobbles outside the hotel. He's like on the steps. Lucy's behind him. We can see a tiny mark on the back of Hank's neck. So she inserted it. She carries like a remote device in her hand. Hank looks up at the sky and he sighs. He's like, "You don't get views like this in the vault." And she's like, "I spent my whole life dreaming of what it would be like to come up to the surface one day with you." Hank says, "I just wanted to make all this worthy of you." He's like, "I was almost looking forward to going back to the vaults with you. It would have been nice to see everyone again, Norm, Betty, Stephanie. Who plays Stephanie? And it's weird to think that Hank and Stephanie were together. It was like, who is Lucy's mom? What did that happen? But then he's like, we're not going back, are we? And she just like kind of pauses, whatever. And she's like, guess the surface changes a person. And then Hank's like, the Legion is coming. They'll massacre everyone here. You know that, Lucy? And he's like, with my help, you could stop them. She like shakes her head a little. She's like, I need you to tell me what you're really doing here. And Hank's like, and then? And her like thumb hovers over the remote button. She's like, then I'm going to turn you into the father I thought you were. She's like, you lied to me my whole life. And Hank's like, I know that's how you feel. You think this is the real world? The surface is the experiment, not the vaults. And she's like, what experiment? He's like, I've already sent my R&D out into the wastelands. Their boxes are the latest models too, so you can't even see them. She just kind of looks around. He sits on the steps of the hotel, and he has his own remote device. He pulls it out of his pocket, but she doesn't see it. He's like, unbeknownst to everyone, they're just following orders written for them centuries ago. And she's like, orders to do what? What did you do? And he's like, I love you, sugar bomb. And then she sees that he's about to push the remote button. She's like, no. And he kind of like zones out. And she's like, Dad. She's like, Dad. His head kind of like, he just kind of like looks down. She just hugs him and starts sobbing. And then he kind of like comes to a bit. He like looks at her. He's like, ah. He's like, Miss, you have a little smudge on the side. May I? And she like nods. He just kind of like moves like a strand of hair. He's like, there, good as new. And she kind of whispers, she's like, yeah. And she sheds a tear. He starts to like kind of look away, and he just like sits there. She stands, she looks around, she starts walking away, she looks back at him, looks around. Then Maximus calls out to her, Lucy. So we see he's like beat up, he can barely stand, but he starts making his way toward her. She walks towards him. They look at each other, like smile, and they hug. Big hug. At Vault 32, they're still knocking, trying to get Stephanie to open a door to her office. They're chanting, open up, open up. Chet's out there, he's looking, he's like smiling. He starts like pounding too. Stephanie opens the case, Hank's case, like mementos. There's like a black Pip-Boy in there. So she puts it on. Outside Davey's like, let's bring a strong message to management. This other guy's like, he starts chanting, death to management, death to management. And Chet's like, he's like, wait, you can tell he's not so sure about that one. Stephanie turns on the Pip-Boy, initiating emergency enclave frequency. So this is an enclave, whatever. It's like, this is Stephanie Harper, Hank McLean's wife. It's like, are you really still his wife? I was like, what's the deal there? She's like, I don't know how this works exactly, but he said that you're always listening, and if you can hear this, initiate phase 2. It's like, okay, Stephanie, what did you just do? At the place where, I think it was the place where Wilzig worked. I don't know what that was. I don't remember because I was like in the second episode. On a screen, computer screen, our messages are received, and then we see this other like big facility, like snowy mountains, and then you can hear, this is Hank McLean reporting for duty. Nobody in Vault-Tec knows I'm here. And then there's Norm's voice. This is Norm McLean from Vault 33. Dad, if you can hear me, what's going to happen to our vault? So I don't know what that's about. So I guess we'll have to wait till next season. Norm crawls out from under the coffee table. He looks into the conference room. The walls are covered with blood. There's dead bodies. He goes inside. He sees Claudia, and he like checks on her. He's like, let's get you home. So she's bloody, but apparently somehow still alive. So then when he's outside, he's like pulling this cart with her like laying on it. Ghouls walking the halls of Vault-Tec. Robert House's voice is like, if your family is here, I'll be happy for you. But what is your plan? How will you protect them? With the Enclave still out there, there is no safety, as I tried to warn you all those years ago. So then back to the airport, wherever they're at. Cooper's looking at the phones, one's ringing. He answers it. It's Robert's voice. I want you to know that it wasn't me. And he's like, what wasn't you? Whatever is about to happen. I told you, there are far worse people than I, Mr. Howard. He kind of looks around. There's a lot of like possibly suspicious people, but they're just doing their own thing. He's like, I commend you for trying to play the hero. I really do. So there's a flashback to him handing the diode over to the president in the car. Then back to him, like on the phone. He like looks at Barb. In the present, Ghoul reaches a cryo room. The door opens automatically, and he enters the chamber. He finds Barbara Howard. Then he looks up, and he sees Janie Howard. So he sighs. Robert's like, "Shall I open it, Mr. Howard?" He like sets his satchel down. He looks at the tubes. "Open it." And then there's whoosh. There's a bunch of like whatever cold smoke or stuff like that. He stares. He waits for it to clear out. It's empty. What a shame. He looks up at Janie's tube above. It's empty too. "You bet on hope, Mr. Howard." Then, I don't know if he's saying that then or now, but because then it cuts back to him being on the phone in the past. So it's like, "You bet on hope, Mr. Howard," and you lost. And he just like kind of drops the phone. He turns to Barb. 3 guys in suits come up to him. "Cooper Howard, we have a warrant here for your arrest by the authority of the House Un-American Activities Committee." So they cuff him behind his back. He's like taken away. Barb cries. In the present, Ghoul falls to his knees. Robert's like, "You've been searching all this time." He just like looks at the tube. He looks down. There's like a postcard, I think, for Colorado. He picks it up. On the back, it just says, "Colorado was a good idea." So someone wrote that. But there's no like to or from, or anything. So, I mean, it must be Barb. And Robert's like, "You're still living in a world of fiction, a world that isn't real." And Ghoul's like, "You're wrong about that." And Robert's like, "You'll forgive me if I don't see how." In the past, so he must have, I don't know when this happened, because then he's saying to Barb before they take him away, he's like, "Act surprised and let me take the fall." And she's like, "Coop." He's like, "I acted alone. You didn't know anything." She's like, No, don't admit to this. Don't admit to anything. We can fight this together." He whispers, he's like, "For her," for their daughter. So the suits come up, take him away. And then in the present, Ghoul's like, "For the first time in 200 long-ass years, I know my family's alive." So he takes off the Pip-Boy. Robert's like, he leaves on the floor. "What are you doing? The Enclave is still out there. We're not done, Mr. Howard. We have business." And he's like, "Not with me, you don't." He just like walks out. Then we see the Romans, or whatever they're called. Are they they're not the Enclave. See, I'm so confused with this. They're marching, they're carrying Lacerta, Macaulay Culkin. Maximus and Lucy go down the elevator for some reason to Robert House's computer room. I don't know why they would know to go there. You see on the big computer screen, it says "signal lost." They go down the stairs, and they have no idea that the diode is actually like right behind them in that secret room because it's closed. They like look out the window. Lucy scoffs slightly. She's like, "I could have prevented this. There's going to be a war, and it's all my fault." And then Maximus is like, "Yeah, well, welcome to the wasteland." And music starts playing for us. He takes her hand. The camera pans out, so we can see the signal lost screen. It kind of flickers. We see Robert House for a second, and then it just like fades out. Then we see Ghoul and Dogmeat. They're kind of looking over the mountainside. They start walking across the desert. I guess they're headed to Colorado. That's it. Credits. But then there's an after-credit scene. The place where Maximus, the base camp or whatever in the desert, they're all like under attack. This place is like shaking. There's explosion, people like yelling and stuff like that. We see Dane, Maximus's friend. He goes to see the elder cleric Quintus, which is weird because I thought Dane was like, "Okay, I'm done with this, whatever," but he's still there doing whatever his duty. So Quintus is kind of bloody, whatever. Dane has this like, I thought it was like a big scroll or something like that. He's like, "The remnants you requested," and Quintus is like, "Open it," and Dane's like, "What is it?" Quintus is like, "Out of the virtue in my heart, I tried to unify the brotherhood, and look what it got me. No matter. Quintus the unifier is dead. Quintus the destroyer is born." So then they open up the remnant or blueprints for this big like armor suit, and it's like on the side it says like Liberty Prime Alpha. So I do not know what that means. Liberty Prime Alpha is some sort of suit. I did a quick search, and I saw it was like talking about like in Alaska. So I don't know if that was that regular suit. Where I'm a little confused, when we saw the flashback of Cooper wearing a suit, and it was like one Deathclaw took out his like whole squad or something like that. But then when they're fighting in Vegas, like one shotgun, they're done. I mean, maybe they got soft over the years because they didn't have to fight as hard. I don't know. But that is the end. So where are we at? Lucy and Maximus are looking over the city. Will they hear from Robert House on screen? Ghoul is heading out to Colorado, I guess. So they're going to be separate. And Hank is, I guess he's just sitting on the steps. I don't know what's going to happen with him. What was this plan that he set up? So who knows? Norm is dragging, or is pulling a cart with Claudia. Yeah. So when is the next season? I mean, hopefully it'll be, I mean, if we're lucky, it'll be like the end of the year, like around December again, because I think that's when they had this one. So it seems like that. So yeah, because like on IMDb, it doesn't say, it lists a third season, doesn't say when, like no projected, like 2027 or whatever. So I'm enjoying, I'm digging this show, and pre-orders for the Steelbook for season 2 are out there. The final art, they haven't they haven't confirmed what the art will look like, and I should probably order it since I got the first season, and I enjoy the show. So let me know what you think. That's it. No more Fallout for a while.
All right, Hijack. Ooh, I feel like I need more tea or something. Hijack, season 2, episode 4, Switch. Things are this whole show. I find it interesting. One, I'm curious who's watching this show besides me, because I don't see anyone talking about it, and I know that happens a lot with the Apple TV shows. Maybe I have no idea, but I'm assuming the number of subscribers isn't the same, as like Netflix or HBO Max. So I just wonder. I don't know. It's so weird, and it's Idris Elba, who he is an established actor. He's amazing, and what I like about this show is it a little far-fetched? Maybe, but the fact that they keep adding like layers and layers, and I don't necessarily want to say there's twists and everything like that, but they take like a basic premise, like the first season, a plane's getting hijacked. And, you would think, and what I thought, Idris Elba is going to, kick the terrorist, the hijacker's butt and, land the plane himself and save the day. It's absolutely not what happened. And it's interesting to see what has happened in between seasons and how Sam Nelson has kind of fallen, and it's not like he rode off into the sunset, and lived happily ever after. I mean, in some ways, things got worse, with what happened to his son and everything. So I'm finding this interesting. And then where we see him in the situation, I mean, it was crazy when he's like, wait, why the heck is he being a hijacker now? When it looked like, he's trying to, he's trying to find or bring the guy who was in charge of the hijacking of the plane, bring him to justice. He's going to capture a hijacker by becoming a hijacker. I'm going to hijack a plane to get him. So it's crazy. But this starts off, Clara, she's staring forward. Winter puts her hand on her shoulder, like reassure. And she's like, tell Nelson exactly what, I told you to say. So she's like, Sam, we have the power back on for you. And the points are changed. So will you join the cleared U7 lane? And he's like, all right, good. Now do as I ask. Bring John Bailey Brown to me. So they're keeping the trains running. They got all the other trains, halted, whatever. So Clara looks at Winter. Winter nods, and then her guy says that, like not on the mic, but he's like, if we, she's like, if you put John Bailey Brown on that train, he is not coming off again. He's like, that's state sanctioned murdered. And Winter's like, I'm not saying we put him on a train. I'm saying we start the process, gain some time. And then to Clara, she's like, tell him. So Clara's like, okay, Sam. It's like, they need time to find the right station to make it safe. But you will get John Bailey Brown. And he's like,
Clara, no tricks. You gambled last time, and now we have a dead man. Yes, I don't know why my Idris Elba sounds like that. Sweet, I guess it's my voice. And she's like, no tricks. And then Otto, he's like crying, and Sam's like exasperated. They feel horrible with what happened to Cappy, to Freddie. I guess I should use his name out of respect now. So passengers are sad because they all saw his body laying there, and his bike is still back there. Sam gets on the radio. He's like, passengers, I need you to listen to me carefully. This train is under my control. So now they know for sure that they're being hijacked. He's like, and it is rigged with explosives. I am speaking to the authorities, and they are agreeing to my demands. So keep quiet, stay out of my way, and don't try to get off this train. If you do as you are told, you will stay alive. But if you do not comply, then you will all die. And then he just like tosses down like the mic, whatever you want to call it, because he's feeling horrible. And Otto, he asks Sam, he's like, why is he dead now? And Sam's like, it was a message that we're being watched. So it's still like the question is like, who killed him? Otto's like, I never agreed to be a hijacker. All I agreed to was to drive this train. I'm not a murderer. And he's like, we didn't kill Freddie, but if we can find out who did, then we got the edge. So then we see Faber. He's out in the streets. He gets a call for Winter. She's like, I've instructed the German intelligence services to release John Bailey Brown to me immediately. I think you read this wrong, Mr. Faber, because he doesn't think Sam did it. And he's like, giving Sam Nelson what he wants is not the answer, I promise you. I think he doesn't think he did it, right? I'm trying to remember. She's like, I work for the people of Berlin. My duty is to them. Their safety takes priority now. And he's like, wait, Ada, please. Something else is going on here. You have to believe me. And she's like, Peter, enough. A man is dead, and Nelson has taken responsibility. What more do you need? And she ends the call. So she tells the other that some BFV or something like that, BFV Berlin, I don't know, have agreed to hand him over as long as it's done discreetly. So she have him collected from the safe house. She says that they don't have to tell him anything, and then she asks Mr. Deal, the control station manager, to point out somewhere suitable for the handover, somewhere discreet. Faber calls someone and says, change of plans. It's like, I need a flight today. Wheels up in an hour. So it's like, wait, who's he calling? His boss. We see the bomb timer. This is what I don't understand, because before it was it says 12 minutes or something like that. So now it's at 4:53. Does that mean it's going to go off at 4:53? Because they want John Bailey Brown on a train. But it's like, why is there a timer? And yeah, that's what I don't get. So it's like, wait, 5 minutes? So this is beginning of the episode? So the rest of the episode is going to be less than 5 minutes? I don't know. I'm sure there's something, I'm reading it wrong, or there's something more to it. Sam's opening the box with the camera hard drive, and he pulls out this little USB thing, and he says, someone on this train has to have a laptop. And he starts to head out, and Otto tells him to wait. He's like, forget about it. He's like, it's not working. You need to find some other way. And he's like, I can't just go out there and ask who killed Freddie. The point is, it's meant to look like it was me. This is how we find out who's controlling us. And Otto's like, yeah, but those drives are encrypted. It's like, they can't be accessed by just anybody. And then Sam's like, we need to find a way to get the USB to that control center. So then he opens the door, and Otto's like, wait. He's like, if you're going out there, you're going to need a good story. So then we see the long-haired guy. He has a bloody hand. So it's like, he's a killer, right? I mean, he was up there. Why else would, he be in the empty second car? Teacher 2 asks him if he's all right, and he's like, yeah. And then, he's like, you don't look all right. And he's like, oh, it's just a scratch. So then he goes to that doctor, nurse, volunteer lady, whatever. And then the guy's like, he says he's all right. He cut himself on a door. And she's like, what were you doing over there? And he's like, I was just trying to get away from the chaos and the blackout. That annoying lady, May, that knows Sam from before, she's listening. Then Sam walks in the car. And it's funny, when he walks in, he's like, move. He's just barks. There's he's just barking at the people, yeah. So they stare at him. Otto talks on the radio. Passengers, please do as the man says. You've all seen what he is capable of. There is no need for anyone else to get hurt. So he grabs the annoying student Rebecca's phone out of her hand. He's like, enough screen time. He opens the kind of top of the window. There's little windows that open up. And he's tosses it. He's like, all right, come on. Everyone, phones out. Out the window now.
Then May, she like types something on her phone before handing it to Sam, and she like looks at him defiantly. So her screen's like, I don't believe it was you. He like pauses for a second, and he's like, do exactly as I say, or more people will get hurt. And everyone is like, do you understand? At the countryside, the dude in the SUV who was watching Marsha just talking on the phone, he's like, yeah, I told her you sent me, but she didn't want to hear it. And she like, came at me with an axe. He's like, you never told me about that. He's like, if I had known it'd be this much aggro, I would have told you to piss off. He's like, only got this car last week, about $5,000 worth of damage here. So then we see, and this is where I was like, wait, who is this guy? Because on the other, he's talking to this dude in a suit. Turns out, and did I miss it? But it turns out that he's talking to Daniel, her boyfriend. Okay. So Daniel's like, I'll sort that out. Listen, there's something I've got to look into. And he's like, he tells the dude, he's like, just go and check that she's okay. And the guy, I think his name's Nick. He's like, yeah, okay. He's like, no problem. I'm not sure she needs me looking after her though. Back on the train, because we'll see more Daniel in a bit. Back on the train, Sam's still collecting phones, tossing them. Then he hears a phone ringing, and there's a dude with an infant getting a call. And he's like, hey, do not answer that phone. He's like, please, it's my wife. She thought I would be out of here 2 hours ago. My son, he's asthmatic. And he is only 4 months old. So the baby's like crying. And Sam like hesitates. Then he grabs the phone, and we see like, the screen image. Oh, there's like a woman on her. So he grabs the phone. He's like, this will be over soon. And then the dude stands up. He's like, hey, you said you were talking to the authorities, that they were listening to you. I'm sure you don't want to release any hostages, but please, there has to be some way we can get him off the train. Sam like looks at the kid and hesitates, and he's like, what's his name? And he's like, Benji. And Sam's like, Benji? No promises. So the dude's wife's trying to call, and it goes to voicemail, and she goes into the other room because there's someone in there, might be like her mom, like, and the news is on, and there's news about like the train stuff. So now she's going to start to put two and two together and panic. Sam passes through the second car again. He's headed towards the front. May glares at him and then follows. And she calls out. She's like, hey. And, someone else is like, what is she doing? So she follows him to the empty first car. She's like, I know you didn't kill him. He stops and turns. She's like, Sam, let me help you. He's like, May, can I be honest? I do remember you. And the thing that I remember about you is that you need to learn when to quit. If you want to help me, I need you to go back to your seat and shut the fudge up. and she's like, So she like turns and goes. And then it cuts to the dude in the SUV, Nick or whatever. He's just talking to Marsha. She's like out, gathering more chopped wood. And she's like, I told you, I don't need your help. And the guy's like, Dan's just worried about you, that's all. She's like, I can take care of myself. And Nick's like, clearly. He's like, lucky I'm not on the force anymore. I'd have to, do you for going equipped or something like that. And she's like, you served with him in Manchester? And he's like, yeah, it was a while back. Took early retirement. Wife and I run a B&B down in Inverness. So I guess, yeah, she is in Scotland. That's what I figured when the word for the house or whatever she said she was staying at. So I've been to Inverness. Very lovely. I would love to go back someday. Don't get me started on Scotland, because to derail the podcast would be the Scots. How I Miss Scotland podcast. So he told Dan it was no problem for, just he had to drive for a bit to check on her. And then she's like, side hustle it is, spying on people's girlfriends. And he's like, he told me about your son. And she whips around and gives him a look. And he's like, about the anniversary and everything. And she cuts him off. You don't get to talk to me about that. And Nick's like, fair enough. She's like, it's not the first time I've had unwanted attention since Kai. He's like, Sam, my ex-husband, has been knocking on a lot of doors. And he's like, pissing off the wrong sorts of people? Well, that explains the axe. And she's like, look, no offense, but I'm not really in the mood for company right now. She goes inside and closes the door. On the train, we see May. Man, she's just like constantly, she's standing about. That nurse lady asked her, like, did he hurt you? And she's like, no. She's like, whatever, because she has like some injury, like on her arm or something like that. It was from before. And she's like, I'm okay. And she looks at the long hair guy. Then she decides to ask the nurse lady to look at her arm. And she like makes some small talk. She's like, oh, that's Freddie's bike, huh? And the lady's like, yeah, he asked me to look after it. Then May asks about during the blackout. She's like, did you see who went past here? And she's like, it was chaotic. And she's like, why? And May's like, what if someone else is involved? And the nurse says that, her take is that he's on his own. He's just a desperate guy in a desperate situation. The news talks about unconfirmed U-Bahn incident. There's on the screen, you see there's a picture of Freddie, like in some news website. Sam calls, Clara, are you still there? Where is he? And she's like, Sam, we're listening. What is it? He's like, Clara, there's a baby on board. It is sick. I want to get it back to its mother. But it's weird he's saying it. He knows it's a boy. He knows it's Benji. Come on, man. She's like, yes, Sam, this is something we can certainly look into. His name is Benji Donitz. If you can confirm a time and place for it to hand over a John Bailey Brown, then we can agree to give this baby the help it needs. And then Winter cuts in. She's like, we will do that, Sam. And he's like, good, because if you can't, well, it's on you. And he feels really bad for saying that. And he looks at the USB again, which, he can't do anything with it. So then, oh wait, I just thought of something. That makes sense. Okay. Olivia tells Winter Sam is on his way to meet her. He was on his way, and he had the Hamburg border evidence, so she doesn't understand why he didn't just come to the embassy to do it the right way. It was all set up for him. And Winter says, well, clearly he had a change of heart. Then Winter asks if she's spoken to his ex-wife, and Olivia says she's been trying all morning, and Winter's like, well, try again. She's like, they need all the background that they can get, like why he's doing this. Mr. Deal calls out that he has location picked. He tells him it's this one station. He says it's a ghost station. It's an abandoned stop on the U6. Clara says there's no cameras, no passengers, and Winter's like, no witnesses. So Deal says that it's where to take John Bailey Brown if she's really planning on handing him over. Then we see that detective dude guy. He's looking at security camera footage of Sam, and there's feeds from the U5 platform. He's like, are these all the feeds from between 9 and 9:45 or something like that? He's talking to this guy who works probably security there, and he's like so annoying. He's like, oh, I thought it'd be a cop. One day he's like, license registration. He's like, that's all it is, right? And the detective just ignores him because he's looking carefully at the footage, and he sees Sam getting the soda from the vending machine, and then he tosses it in the trash. So he's looks unopened. So he paused, and we see that Sam stops and he looks right at the camera before. And this is when the worker guy, he's like, basically this cop poop is easy, right? And then he gets up, the detective gets up, he's like, come with me, because they're going to the U-Bahn or whatever. So they're going to go down there. Winter calls Sam and says that they have somewhere to hand over Bailey Brown. When she mentions the station, Otto says to Sam that he hasn't heard that for a while. He's like, it's possible, but it's on the U6 because, they haven't been using it or whatever. So Sam tells Winter that she'll need to reroute them, and she's like, yes, but first they need to get the baby off the train. And Sam says, of course, that was a deal. And she's like, they're tracing next of kin. So John Bailey Brown is being moved out of the safe house. And Faber's car pulls up, he gets out, and he's like, okay, John, you're coming with me. John asks one of the officers or whatever. He's like, what's he doing here? But then Winter's guy pulls up, other SUVs and everything. And he barks out. He's like, get the prisoner in the car. And Faber's just left standing there. He starts protesting. He's like, no. It's like, we can't let him go again. And then the cop dude, he's like, your credentials have been revoked. And Faber's like, my credentials? He's like, stand down or I'll have you arrested. And he's like, and then in the car, Bailey Brown's like, run the guy over. And Faber tells an officer that, he's like, I have the jet on the ground at the airport, with the home office on board. And the other guy, he's like, I don't like it any more than you do, but don't do this here in the street. He's like, we can still do this, our way, but now's not the time. So then the dude says, let him take care of it. They all leave. So it's like, what does that mean? And then Faber's is left just standing there. Olivia tries Marcia again, gets voicemail. She tells Winter, she's like, we'll leave it for now. It's like, we've been getting calls about someone, calling about their family. So it's like the mother of the sick baby. On the train, May's still keeping an eye on the long-haired dude. Sam's back. He goes up to the doctor nurse. He asks if she's a doctor, and she's like, kinda. And he's just like, come with me. So they go up to the dad and the baby. And he's like, this woman's a medic. He's like, tell her what's happening with the baby. And dad says he has really bad asthma. And she's like, there's not really much I can do. And Sam tells her to stay there. Because he starts walking away, and he just holds up a finger at her. At the station, the detective dude, he's looking at the vending machine. And the guy, he keeps talking, making jokes and everything. The detective finally tells him to stop. And he looks at the garbage. He takes out a can. And then the annoying guy goes to to get chips out of the vending machine, and then a coaster. I don't know if a coaster fell out of the vending machine or if it was just in the bottom. And it says the Foxhole or something like that. I think it looked like a coaster for some place called the Foxhole. Daniel and Zara. So I think these were the two people that when the news broke out, they're like, "Oh, look at this." I was like, "Who is this guy and this lady? They got to be someone." And it's stupid me. It's like I didn't recognize that it was Daniel and Zara. So Zara is his ex, who she was in the first season, and so they were like work together. They're on friendly terms with that. He says that he knows he doesn't have clearance for all counterterrorism stuff or whatever, but a mate in border force says that Sam Nelson flew into Berlin yesterday, and he's like, he's not involved, is he? And she's just like kind of silent. So then they must talk or whatever. So he figured out. So Daniel calls his buddy, tells him to go and get her now. And the guy's like, well, I tried that before. She's not going to come quietly, is she? Daniel says, things have changed. But it's like, okay, Daniel, why don't you call her and say, go with this guy instead of making the guy go and trying to, convince her. But he's like, she might be in danger, so they need to get her somewhere safe. And the guy's like, okay, I'll take care of it. He gets out of the car, and then that weird Woods couple talk to him, and I feel like there's something up with them, because they're the lady's the one that gave Marcia the flowers. Who were the flowers from? She never found out. Was it from Sam? I doubt it. So they're there, and she's like, "Oh, you frightened a lady. You hanging around scaring women." And the dude's like, "That's not nice." He raises his rifles. Not nice at all. And then we see Marcia. She's like walking. She hears a gunshot. She like stops and like looks around, but then keeps walking. So they just kill the dude. So I don't think they're just friendly local people looking out for her. They're probably keeping an eye on Marcia, just like I figured from the beginning, because they just seem too coincidental. And who knows? So Zara tells Daniel it's not looking good for Sam. He already delivered one dead body and he's threatening hundreds more. Daniel's like, why? What's he saying? And she's like, I already told you too much. She's like, I can't afford to get fired. And he's like, come on. And she says that, he's not going to like it, but he's asking for someone. Daniel thinks about it and he's like, John Bailey Brown. And she says that the irony is MI5 are about to extradite him to the UK. And he's like, when were you going to tell me all this? And she's like, well, for one thing, it's highly classified. And she's like, and also, I was only briefed on it this morning. So he mentions how Sam thinks that John Bailey Brown is responsible for what happened to Kai. Did that come up in the briefing? And she like kind of nods or whatever. She doesn't, say anything. And she says that she knows he doesn't want to believe it's Sam. No one does. But it's, anniversary of Kai's death. It's like, you have to admit, the case for defense isn't fantastically strong. Daniel's like, no, he's like, I don't buy it. He's like, there's only one reasonable assumption to make. And she's like, the Cheapside firm? And he's like, we need to see him. So what I like about this is, Daniel is dating Sam's ex. He cares about her. But I like that even though like Sam is the ex, that there's still like a level of respect there. He's not like, oh, whatever, this guy, he's despicable or whatever. So I like that, he's trying to help him. And, same in the first season, and yeah, he's doing it for Marcia, but, yeah. Because he could easily be like, okay, just, lock him away or whatever. But no. Okay, May keeps moving about as she stands and she talks to a couple like how they're holding up. The dude like gets up, they're like older couple. He lets her sit. The lady leans over. She's like, I know what you're doing. It's like, many years ago, I was trained to see things. If you know what the city has been through, you know what I mean. She's like, you are right. In the power cut, I went to find a driver, but when I got to the first carriage, one other person was already there. She says the man, the long hair guy, that he was kneeling by the middle doors and looked like he was trying to get rid of something. So May starts to get up, and the lady like pulls her back. She's like, if you want to keep safe, keep your head down. May gets up, long hair guys. He looks like he's like sleeping, and she moves forward to the empty car, and she sees like some blood droplets, like drips. So she kind of like knows where to go. Clara calls Sam and says that they've reached the mother of the baby. She's agreed to meet them. Sam says that he'll allow them off the train. He's like, there's a maintenance point between, and he holds the receiver to Otto, tells him like the station, whatever. Neil points on the big map And Clara says that they know to one. So they're going to do this exchange. They're not at the station where John Bailey Brown is, but before that. So that's a good thing. It's like, get the baby off before we bring him on. So Sam says that, he doesn't want anyone else on or off the train. He's like, understood. He's like, no funny business, no ambush, no policewoman disguised as a mother. He's like, okay. In fact, I want a picture of the mother so I can confirm it's her. And she's like, yes, Sam, we will arrange that. And he's like, Clara, if there's anyone at that meeting point other than the mom, then just remember, there isn't only one life at risk here, okay? Otto's like, are you sure this is going to work? And he looks at the baby bottle in his hand that he took for some reason. And he's like, no, I'm not sure at all. So I'm thinking, okay, why did he take the baby bottle? There's a little name that says Benji on there. Is he going to put a note or something in there? No, probably not. Because, that would be too obvious. So May's still in the empty train car. She's like reaching, at first I was like, what is she doing? She's like reaching on the side of the seat, like under it, whatever. And she reaches, and I think she cut herself, which is probably what long-haired dude did. So I think she cut her hand, and she pulls out, she's like struggling to pull out, she pulls a bag out. And as soon as she gets out, long-haired dude standing there. So it's like, oh crap, is this the guy that killed Freddy? And now there's something in the bag. Is it what's in there? Is that another bomb? I don't think so, and now she has it. So she gets up, backs away. He's like, can I have my bag, please? And then he's like, now. And he reaches for it, forcibly, and he demands, give it to me, give me my bag. And it he tears out of her hand, but it falls on the floor, so stuff spills out. It's like drugs, little packs of, I don't know if it's cocaine, some pills or stuff like that. Then Sam comes out, it's like, what is this? What's going on? And the guy's like, it's nothing, it's my bag. That's all, it's just my bag. I hid it because I thought the police were going to raid the train. So he's like, go back to your seat now, right now. And to May, he's like, WTF. And she's like, it doesn't make any sense. No one else passed me on my way to the carriage. He's like, what are you trying to prove? And she's like, that it wasn't you. It's like, I guess that's what you get for trying to help. It's like, whatever. He just looks at her and he's like, go back to your seat. And he goes back and talks to Otto. And he's like, when he was killed, we were stopped. The power was off. The rail wasn't live. And I was like, yes, we were out on the tracks. He's like, so if nobody else walked past May, then whoever did it must have snuck back on the train behind her. That's why she didn't see them. So Clara calls and said the baby's mother is headed to the meeting point. Now Olivia is there on the street level to meet the mom, and she apologized. She's like, I need to take a photo so Timo, the dad, can confirm that it's her. So she sends a pic to Sam. Olivia tells her, the mom, that the hijackers demanded that she meet him alone, but they'll be right there. And they reach the stairs, and she's like, why is he doing this? He must have said something. And Olivia pauses, and she's like, he lost his son, and he wants answers. So the mom goes down the stairs. And, obviously she's kind of nervous and everything, but she wants her kid. Sam he goes back, he stops for a sec between the cars, in between the train cars. He looks around trying to figure out, is there something there? So, could someone have hidden or done something? Then he goes up to Timo, and this doesn't really make sense. He holds up the phone with the picture. He's like, who is that? And Timo's eyes kind of go big, but I thought he would maybe show him 3 pictures, who's it? Is this her? Is this her? Is this her? And then, 2 decoys or whatever. And then, but he doesn't do that. So I guess we don't have time for that. So he tells him, he's like, let's go. And then the Timo reaches for the bag. He's like, not you, just a baby. And the people around are kind of shocked. And Timo's like, I have to go with him. And Sam's like, you can't get off this train, just a baby. And Timo's like, no, I won't let you touch him. And he's like, not me, her. And he looks at the doctor lady, and she's surprised. And then she says to Timo, she's like, I know it's hard. I know it's hard. It's going to be okay. So, and Sam looks a little sad because, he doesn't want to do this. He's turning into, he's acting like he's a monster. He's like, move. So they make their way up. Otto says over intercom, the hijacker has agreed to let a sick baby off the train. No one else can leave. If you try to do this, all of you will be in danger. Then we see another shot of Benji's bottle, and Sam's like, at least you stopped crying. And the lady's like, that's not a good sign. So Otto says they're nearly there, and then the mom's there, and it's dark, it's an abandoned station. And she goes out on the tracks, the train stops, and he's like, okay, let's go. You go down, I'll take him. So the doctor, the lady hands, he holds Benji, And she climbs down, and then she like looks at him. He's like, I can take, and he's like, yeah. Because, he's like, looking at the baby and everything. But as he starts climbing down, he sees like a green piece of fabric on a door frame. And he asks Otto for the bottle, and he like gives him a look. So I'm like, wait, what is going on here? Because like, what's with the bottle? Are we supposed to see this fabric there? Because they didn't like zoom in on it. Did he look at it? Did he motion to Otto? Did Otto see it? So then the doctor hands over the baby, and Sam looks at them, and he starts to hand over the bottle, and the mom's like, you don't look like I thought you would. She's like, I don't know what I thought, but now I see you. You just look tired. And she's like, please let Timo go. Let them all go. And softly, he's like, I can't. And she's like, why not? He's like, because I have to finish this. And he hands over the bottle. He's like, you'll need this. And they head back to the train. And he looks back at the mom and inside to the doctor. And then he says to her, he's like, thank you for help. Or he's like, thanks for your help. And then he opens the door, basically like, okay, go back. So she walks through, and then she turns. She's like, that was a good thing you did. It surprised me. And he's like, thanks. Then she looks at him. She goes back. And Otto's like, it was her? And Sam's like, yeah. And now we know who we're up against. So she's wearing like a greenish jacket, but I'm assuming that's what it is, because that was like the same material. So did her piece of her jacket or something, like, because they didn't show us like, oh, there's a rip on her sleeve or something like that. So I'm assuming I think that's what I saw. Now the other thing, after going through this again, first time it didn't really dawn. I'm like, is he going to put a note in the bottle? That's like so obvious, but you kind of want it to be obvious, because the mom should look at it. She's like, what's this in the bottle? And you're like, oh, it's a note, and then he'll say something. But what I think he did is he must have put the USB thing in there. So hopefully, she'll take it, talk to Olivia, and she'll like, oh wait, what's this? And Olivia will see it, and then she'll know what to do with it. And then maybe they'll see the footage that Sam didn't kill Cappy. Yeah, so at least the baby's off, but poor Timo, I mean, he's stuck on there, and he doesn't know for a fact. I mean, unless the train goes by, if they see her on the platform, but he has no idea if his baby actually did get handed off to her. I mean, he saw a picture of his wife. I'm assuming it's his wife. So, yeah. So that was the 4th episode. All right, Wonder Man, Season 1, Episode 3, Pacoima. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I'm really enjoying this show, this series. And it's weird because there's not, it's a Marvel show. If you have a Marvel show, you expect a lot of Marvel action. And we don't have that. There's no like super heroics. There's not really like any powers. I mean, we'll see what happens this week, or episode 3. But I'm just really enjoying it, and it's really just developing the characters, and we're just seeing, finding out about Simon and Trevor, and that's things like Trevor. This is a dude who was supposed to be the Mandarin, and we all know how that went. But either way, I mean, I'm digging the show. It's so much about the characters, and I think it's cool. So this episode opens with a lady saying, you hear her voice first of all. She's saying, I shouldn't have left them alone. And you see a kid getting checked out by a doctor, and she exclaims in Haitian Creole, and the lady says that it's just so hard since her father passed. She can't be ever at once. So obviously this is Simon as a kid, and this is his mom talking. So the doctor asks, she's like, are you sure he was inside when the fire broke out? And the mom's like, he was in the room where it started. And then a firefighter had to break into the kitchen to get him. And then must be his older brother, Eric. He's like, I called 911 as soon as I smelled smoke. Then in Haitian Creole, she's like, what is it? What's she doing? And then he's like, it's okay, just wait. And then so the doctor's like, Mrs. Williams, your son shows no sign of smoke inhalation. He's got no cough, no burns, not even skin irritation. I don't think I've seen a healthier 13-year-old in my life. And so mom's like, so it's all okay? And doctor's like, it's great. We could do a chest x-ray, but I don't think that's necessary. And she's like, ooh, I can't even do it. Ooh. She's like, thank goodness. And then the mom's like, but you should be more careful when using the stove on your own. He's like, it was a stove, right? And the kid Simon's like, yeah. And the mom's like, thank you, thank you. So then we see a guy in a suit speaking in a conference room full of like other suits. He says like supernatural threats. That's our simple directive. Protect this country from supernatural threats. And then the screen shows us it's present day. He's like, we got the men and women resources, an incredibly expensive state-of-the-art high-security prison. It's like we have everything we need to do an essential job for our nation. There's just one problem. Do you know what that problem is? Our prison is half empty. And he's like, half empty. He's like, and the Congressional Budget Office is up our ass, looking at every nickel and dime we're costing the taxpayer. We're facing significant budget cuts at every office, 20% or more here in Los Angeles. And then we see Cleary is in the room. So the agent, like, basically blackmailing Trevor to be a spy. He's like, every single person here is going to need to look carefully at what you're contributing. So this is the problem. This is like what gives me the skeevies, that annoys me. So basically, Cleary is forcing Trevor to do all this dirty work, to spy, to try to get some dirt, some information on Simon. And, you know, Simon is supposedly a dangerous individual who has done nothing. You know, there are no records of him doing anything. And so basically, they have a half-empty prison, so they want to fill it up with people. They want to lock up Simon just because he is potentially a powered individual. He's done nothing wrong, but he is a potential threat, so they want to lock him up. And so, yeah, that obviously that sucks. So we see Simon loudly and cheerfully does a video. He's like, now, what up, everybody? Let me set the scene. Fresh new start for your boy, Young Z. It's like, you saw Pops for a dad. He's cool. He's just a little stressed about my first day of school. He's like, they say, be careful, because humans can be mean, but I'm still going out for the football team. It might be rough, but it's home sweet home. Just a little bit of dust and a little bit of mold, but it ain't so bad on this side. And then Cleary shuts the laptop. So he has Trevor in his office. And he's like, there are so many self-tapes. And Trevor's like, I'd say, and he chuckles. So Claire's like, here's what we know. We have the police reports of the kitchen fire when Simon was 13. We have last year's porta potty explosion on the set of The Rookie. And thanks to you and Simon's hard drive, we can place him at the scene. It's almost enough. And Trevor's like, and you're sure he's dangerous? For what it's worth, he seems like a sensitive soul to me. And Claire's like, I'll put that in the file, Trevor. And he's like, just saying. And then he's like, Simon's mother's birthday is tomorrow. And Trevor's like, oh. And Claire's like, he's going to her party in Pacoima. He's like, I want you there. I want you wearing a wire. He gives him like a little like device with a cord and like wrapped around it. He's like, do some digging with the family about the fire. Get me something I can use. And Trevor's like, this feels like it might be crossing a line. And Claire's like, well, if you don't, you're going back to prison. Which is just such scumball behavior. And then Trevor's like, wait, that wasn't the deal? And Claire's like, well, it is now. It's like, you're going soft, and I don't have any time to waste. Get me something I can use, or we're done. So he puts the like wire in his jacket pocket, whatever, like in his, so it's like by his front. He has like a velvet jacket or whatever. Simon's talking to Janelle on the phone while Trevor sits on the sofa. He's like, well, if Von Kovac is still watching tapes, then maybe a little phone call to remind him. And she's like, She's like, no, Simon, it's crazy here. She's like, you know what we're about to sign? The Manning brothers. And they come as a package deal. We're playing hot potato with Eli, and I don't want to be left holding that dead weight. And he's like, well, good luck. I'll just sit here and not think about how life-changing it'll be to hear back from Von Kovac. And she's like, if there's news, you'll be the first to know unless you call me again, in which case I will never tell you. He's like, that's not funny. And she's like, good, because I wasn't trying to be funny. And she ends the call. Trevor's like, if they don't give you a call back, it means they're clowns making a terrible movie you wouldn't want to be part of anyways. Simon like scoffs. He's like, yeah. And Trevor's like, besides, the work of an actor isn't getting jobs. He's like, your work is acting. You can always find a way to act. And Simon's like, yeah, you're right. I have to stop waiting for permission. If I don't get this part, I should do something on my own. Short film, a play. And Trevor's like, a play? Yes. He's like, the play is the thing. Theater, pure form of acting. Rumble thy belly, spit fire, spout rain. Nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax you, not you, you elements, with unkindness. I will never give you kingdom. Called you children, you owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure. Something like that. And Simon's like, not bad. And Trevor like chuckles. And Simon's like, this one? He's like, well, maybe it's like Cassius or someone says, maybe a fella ain't got a soul of his own, just a little piece of a big soul, one big soul that belongs to everybody then it don't matter. It's like, I'll be all around in the dark. I'll be everywhere, wherever you can look, wherever there's a fight so hungry people can eat, I'll be there. Wherever there's a cop beating up on a guy, I'll be there. And Trevor's like, on the page, it looked like nothing. The beginning, simple, almost comical, just a pulse, bassoons and basset horns, like a rusty squeeze box. But then, high above it, an oboe, just a single note, hanging there unwavering until a clarinet took over and sweetened it to a phrase of such delight. This was no composition by a performing monkey. This was a music I'd never heard before, filled with such longing, such unfulfillable longing. It had me trembling. It seemed to me that I was hearing the voice of God. And Simon stares, and then his phone chimes. He's like, sorry. And Trevor's like, oh, please. It's like, well done, by the way. He's like, thanks. He's like, oh, I got to go. I'm supposed to be in Peña for my mom's birthday later. And then Trevor's like, a birthday celebration in Peña? How exciting. And Simon's like, you think that sounds exciting? And Trevor's like, well, I've never been to Peña before. Simon's like, I grew up there, and I promise you haven't missed anything. It's basically Cleveland with palm trees. And Trevor's like, well, I've never been to Cleveland either. He's like, do you mind if I tag along? Then Simon turns and stares at him. He's like, surprised. He's like, would be nice to have a buffer. It's going to be just a bunch of aunties and cousins sharing war stories of growing up Haitian. And Trevor's like, I've always been an exceptional buffer. And Simon's like, good. Look, it's like, my family doesn't know I got fired for American Horror Story. And Trevor's like, oh. And Simon's like, so let's keep that between us. And then Trevor's like, as Belinda Carlisle famously sang, our lips are sealed. Simon chuckles. Then the song starts playing as the scene changes. They're driving. They eventually arrive, like suburbs or whatever. Trevor has some flowers. Mom comes out, hugs Simon. Simon introduces him as this industry friend. And he's like, it's lovely to see you, Mrs. Williams. And she's like, oh, it's so nice to meet one of Simon's work friends. Oh, and I love your fashion style. Because, again, he has that velvet jacket on. And he's like, I hope you don't mind me intruding on your party. And she's like, no problem. Friends are always welcome here. It's like, my son Eric just had my kitchen renovated for my birthday. It's like, oh, you'll never believe the transformation. And Simon's like, he never saw it before, Mummy. And she's like, I've been telling everyone about your American Horror Story movie. And he's like, it's not a movie, Mummy, it's television. She's like, oh, but it's a big show. Everyone at church is so excited you're going to be on YouTube. To Trevor, Simon's like, anything streaming is on YouTube. And so then Trevor's like, so this is where Simon grew up? And she's like, well, Simon was born right in this house. And Simon's like, I wasn't born in the house. And she's like, well, he knows what I mean. And he's like, Eric, your brother's here. Out back, Eric asked if traffic was bad, and Simon said it was normal. He asked Simon if he brought the whipped cream, and Simon forgot. And when Eric sees Trevor, he's like, why does he look familiar? So Trevor introduced himself, and he lists like a few things he's done, but then Eric's like, weren't you the Mandarin? And Trevor's like, then I took a role posing as an international terrorist to pay my drug and prostitution debts. There's like an awkward silence. And Mom says that, it's like, oh, you have to see the kitchen. She tells Eric to give him a tour. Mom is happy having an island in the kitchen. She's like, she's always wanted one. And then she points out this one part, like a fridge just for wine. And Eric asks Trevor if he's a wine guy, and he's like, "Oh no, thank you." He's like, "I'm a bit of a teetotaler these days, 13 years sober." And he's like, "Oh, good for you." And he's like, "Well, congratulations on a lovely kitchen." He's like, "What did it look like before?" So Eric's like, "Beige and dark orange, really 70s." And Mom, Martha, she's like, "The cabinets were all that dark wood paneling." And then Simon, she's like, "Remember that?" And he's like, "No, not really." And she's like, "It was before the fire." And then Trevor's like, "Oh, there was a fire?" And Eric's like, "Yeah, it was a long time ago." And he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And then Eric's like, "Why do you want to know?" And Trevor's like, "Oh, just making conversation." And Mom's like, "It's not much of a story." And Trevor's like, "It certainly sounds like one. A kitchen, a fire, it's packed with drama already." And then Simon's like, "Eric still blames me." And she's like, "We don't need to talk about it." And Eric's like, "Well, I mean, what 13-year-old doesn't understand how a stove works?" Mom's like, "It was my fault for leaving Simon alone in the house." And Trevor's like, "Oh, so Simon was alone when it happened?" And then there's a knocking on the door, so that like ends the story. There's lots of family over. Eric shows off different features on the island. Mom points out the names of like different people to Trevor. Simon texts Janelle any news, and she replies, "Stop, Simon, just stop." This other lady tells Trevor that she and Martha practically raised the kids together. They would spend hours in the backyard. Trevor asks, what was Simon like as a child? And she's like, "Quiet." And Trevor's like, "Interesting." And she doesn't say anything else. And he's like, "That's all you got to say?" And she's like, "Well, I never much liked him, to be honest. His brother, Eric, he was a nice one. So helpful." And Trevor's like, "I wasn't asking for your preference, Esther. Just some Simon stories. Bloody hell." And she's like, "Oh." And he's like, "Oh." And then he steps away. So she says something that sounds like an insult in Haitian Creole, maybe. I don't know. Someone asked Simon if he ever met any famous people or any superheroes. He's like, "Nah." He's like, "Not really." This lady's like, "I love Captain America. He is a full package." And Simon's like, "But he is just like a regular dude who can throw a shield, right?" And she's like, "Oh, is that how you feel?" Trevor talks to this other lady, and she says that she and Simon used to carpool to school every day. So then Trevor's like, "Oh, you must have so many stories. Was he, like shaken up after the kitchen fire?" And she's like, "We didn't talk much." And Trevor's like, "But you carpooled every day?" And she's like, "Yeah." So another strikeout. Simon is still talking to this guy and the lady. She mentions that he says something like he has like 3 auditions in acting class, and she's like, "Is that a lot for a week?" He's like, "That's a full week." And she's like, "Wow." And or the guy's like, "Wow." And she's like, "That's a full week." And then at first I didn't realize they were talking to each other in Haitian Creole. And she's like, one of them says like, "Oh, he is so lazy." They're basically laughing at him. Then the dude talks about Simon's clothes, even though he's right there. And I think the guy is like, he can't even afford to dress properly. And then in English, he's like, Simon says, he's like, "I can understand you, right?" And the lady's like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad your Creole is good. I was just." Trevor asked this older couple, like, top 5 memories of Simon's childhood, anything that comes to mind. But before they can answer, Simon comes and grabs him. He's like, "Hey man," he's like, "What are you doing? I thought you were going to be my buffer." It's like, "I just spent 20 minutes explaining, producer sessions to my cousins." And Trevor's like, "Sorry." He's like, "I was just excited to meet everyone." And Simon's like, "Now I know you're lying." And Trevor's like, "What? I'm not lying." And he like chuckles. Simon's like, "No one's happy to talk to my neighbor, Esther." And Trevor's like, "Yeah, no, she's terrible." Eric comes in and tells them, everyone's like, "Let's eat." So there's lots of food, joking, laughing. Trevor's just like kind of takes it in. I think it was Eric's wife. Maybe she's like, "Oh, he has news." And she makes him share the news. So Eric's like, "We just hired a new underwriter, which means I'm now an SVP and manager of a team of 6. And he looks at Simon and he's like, "The management thing is really the best part of my job, helping my reports with their career development." But, Simon isn't impressed. And Trevor like notices. And then Eric's like, "There's a couple of our claim reps who are going to be promoted in the next quarter. So we're going to have some openings." And Simon's like, I don't want to work at an insurance company. It's like, I have a job. And Eric's like, doing what exactly? And Simon's like, acting. He's like, And Simon's like, my job is to train and audition. So Trevor's watching all this like very carefully, and he's not liking it. So Simon's like, I had a big one the other day. I hear it's probably gonna get a call back. It's for a lead role in a Von Kovac movie. And Mom's like, Simon, really? And then Eric's like, remind me what a callback is? Simon's like, it's when they bring you back into audition again. Any big role, they're going to want to see you a few times. Sometimes you may even meet the director. Eric's like, so it's a second interview for a job you still might not get. Trevor jumps in. He's like, it's quite a bit more than that. In fact, for a job of this scale, a callback alone is a huge accomplishment. And Mom's like, ooh. So Eric's like, what exactly are you doing at this party, man? And Trevor's like, sorry? Eric's like, this is my mom's house, filled with her family and friends. How long have you known my brother? And Mom's like, let's not forget that Simon just did American Horror Story movie. And Simon's like, Mommy. And she's like, Simon, tell your brother about the American Horror Story. And he's just like, and Eric's like, what? What is it? And Trevor's like, Simon, I've got to go to the loo. I think those curried fish bites don't exactly agree with me. So then we see him come out of the bathroom. He like looks around. He sees like some like photos on the wall. He looks in a desk drawer in like some office or something like that. Then he doesn't find anything. His phone buzzes and he exhales. And he's like, I want to set your expectations. And he's like, I haven't been able to find much. And Cleary's like, sounds like you're not pushing hard enough. So I don't know. I don't think he can hear what's being said. I'm assuming that, I don't know, maybe he is, but yeah, I don't know. And I'm just like, when he says like, you're not pushing hard enough, I was like, man, this guy sucks. So Trevor's like, I'm pushing. He's like, everyone finds it odd that I'm here. It's like, I nearly got into a fight with a neighbor woman. And Cleary's like, yeah, well, let's hope something comes up for your sake. And he's like, and if it doesn't, then Cleary's like, then I'll find a different way to get what I want. And Trevor's like, and I go back to prison? He's like, yeah, so maybe keep trying. Maybe talk to everyone. No stone unturned. And then Simon's like, what are you doing in here? So he's in the hall, and Trevor's like, oh, just getting lab results from my doctor. And he's like, acts like he's like looking at his phone. So he gives Simon a thumbs up. He's like, fabulous. Now I know I can indulge without worrying about my cholesterol. And he like chuckles. Then Trevor goes in the kitchen. Simon's mom is there. He's like, you mind if I hide out in here? And she's like, ooh. She like chuckles. She's like, sorry about my son. Eric can be a lot. And Trevor's like, you shouldn't be doing dishes at your own party. And he helps like load some dishes in the dishwasher. She's like, I like to clean as I go. And Trevor's like, it's been a lovely evening. And the community is charming. And she's like, She's like, Sanford and I always loved it. A good place to raise kids. And he's like, And she's like, and I'm glad you're here, Trevor. Simon never brought a friend to meet his family like this. Truthfully, he never really had a friend. Who doesn't ever make a friend? And Trevor's like, he's an artiste. He's a little prickly. And she's like, can I tell you something? When Simon was little, he fell off his bike. And Trevor's like, oh. And she's like, he always insists on riding his father's bike, even though he was too small for it. It was a few years after Sanford passed. I took him through to the kitchen. I cleaned him up, and he demanded I kiss his knee. And Trevor's like, to kiss it better? And she chuckles, exactly. And Trevor's like, demanding little chap. And she like, still is. After I kissed it, as I was putting on the Band-Aid, he looked up and said something that he has never said again. Thank you for loving me, Mummy. It's like, I thought I'd fall apart right there. I don't know if he meant it the way I took it, or if he was just saying something, but all that time, I thought I didn't mind how alone he was. I thought, okay, he has his acting, his Criterion DVD collection, all those movie posters on his wall. Maybe he doesn't feel alone, but he was. And he felt it, even if he didn't say it. Anyways, I'm glad he's got a friend. And that's the thing. I feel like Trevor really is being a friend, and maybe it's because Trevor doesn't really have friends. And, but they have this, common thing of acting, and yeah, it feels like they're good for each other. Then it's time to sing happy birthday. So Trevor watches like across the yard. Simon's like kind of preoccupied. And I almost feel like Trevor's feeling guilty. He feels bad about what he's doing. So then Simon tells his mom, you got to get going. So then he gives her a gift and she gasps. She's like, woo. It's a ice cream maker. And she's like, you were listening when I said I wanted to be an ice cream mixologist. And he's like, of course I was. And she shows to Eric, and she's like, look, there's even a compartment at like cookies or toppings or something like that. And he's like, He's like, and that looks expensive, which means you should probably be thanking me. And she's like, Eric? He's like, no, really, since I'm the one who's been supporting you, and I paid for this kitchen, and I know you're still giving money to Simon, because how else would he be surviving, right? And in Haitian Creole, she's like, we don't need to talk about this now. And he's like, what happened on American Horror Story, Simon? Because he noticed, like, Simon kind of react when she brought it up. And he's like, nothing. And Eric's like, BS. He's like, you can't lie to me. I'm your brother. And then he's like, I got fired, okay? And she's like, oh no, Simon, really? And Simon's like, no, Mommy, it wasn't even my fault. It was creative differences. And Eric's like, of course, nothing's ever your fault. And Mom's like, stop, Eric. Then he's like, when are we going to start being honest about this problem? Simon has no interest in helping his family. All he thinks about is himself. He spends his entire life goofing off and somehow getting encouragement by you to keep doing it. He's like, goofing off? Who says I'm goofing off? It's like, come on, man. And Eric's like, I don't know what else you would call dicking around, auditioning for over a decade with no discernible change in your career. And she's like, don't upset him. And he's like, right, don't upset him. Let's just protect Simon's feelings. And Trevor, like, he sees crumbs on a counter, like, start, like, moving. So Eric's like, guy spends his own mother's money on her birthday gift like he's 5 years old. And I'm the crazy one for treating my grown-ass brother like an... And then Simon slams his fist down on a marble, like, top island. And it'll just, like, shatter. Pieces go flying. They all kind of, like, shield themselves. It's, like, slow motion shot and everything. And then Eric's like, what the hell, Simon? Mom's like kind of whimpering. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And Martha sobs, and there's like nothing Simon can say. He just like walks out. And then Trevor like stands there for a second, then he follows. So, I mean, it was kind of, we knew it was coming. But they're driving in the car, it's like silent. And then he like pulls over and he parks. And he's like, no one's ever seen that side of me before outside of my family. And Trevor's like, we don't have to talk about it, because he's wearing the wire. And Simon's like, I don't know where it all came from or how it happened. Like, I don't know why. I wish it would all just go away. And Trevor's like, you don't owe me an explanation. He's like, I don't have one. I'd never work again if anyone found out. And Trevor's like, why? What are you talking about? Simon's like, because of DeMar Doorman Davis. And Trevor's like, sorry, who's DeMar Doorman Davis? And Simon's like, and they mentioned that when he auditioned for Wonder Man, he had to sign the doorman clause or something like they call that. And he's like, it doesn't matter. It's not like I have a career to worry about anyways. Maybe it's time for me to admit Eric was right. And then Trevor's like, abide with me, fast falls the eventide. And then he's like, Simon's like, what's that? Trevor's like, it's a hymn. It got me through some tough times. I sang it to me mom as she passed away. And Simon's like, that's nice, Trev. He's like, I appreciate it. But I don't need comforting. I need a break. All I see is a parade of talentless fools getting job after job, their dumb faces on deadline every day. It's like, maybe it's time for me to admit that it's never going to be me. And Trevor's like, you don't know that. And he's like, I'm no Wonder Man. And then Trevor there's nothing he can say. And Simon's like, yeah, we should go. And Trevor's like, give me a sec. He's like, I need to pee. So he gets out. He's off to the side, reaches in his coat, takes the recorder out, and then he like takes the SIM card and he like snaps it in half and he tosses it. So this is where I wonder if Cleary didn't hear anything. But then he goes back to the car and Simon gets out. And Trevor's like, thanks for waiting. And he's like, but something's up. Because Simon's just like saying, he's like, Simon, is someone hurt? Is it your mom? And he's like, that was Janelle, my agent. And Trevor's like, oh no, bad news, Simon. I'm so sorry. And Simon's like, she was trying to get a hold of the both of us. No one had your info. Trevor's like, why? What happened? And Simon's like, we both got callbacks for Wonder Man. And then Trevor like gasps. And Simon puts his hand in his mouth, like raises his hand, he exhales. That's the end of the episode. So it's like, okay, so 3 episodes, and he hasn't even met with the director yet or anything. So he's just now getting a call back. But it's not, and I don't know how it would be if binging it, maybe it would feel, but I feel like week by week, even, I don't know, because I feel like it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's dragging or anything. But I wonder if you were binging it, if it would feel like it's going too slow. But I'm enjoying it because, we're getting to really see who Simon is versus like in a regular movies or whatever. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And, there's no real times to really get you get to know the characters as you go along. So I don't know. I mean, I'm digging it. So that was episode 3. And yes, I haven't mentioned this. Yes, all the episodes are out already. They all came out at the same time, but I'm enjoying doing this one at a time. So we'll see how next week's goes. Because I feel like I should try to hurry up, but we'll see how it goes. All right, and now the movie feature is Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And it's a weird title. It's a wacky title. It's I don't know. Yeah, so this was written by Matthew Robinson. As I mentioned, when I was like, oh, I hope there's a steelbook for this, and usually I get alerts on when things come up, but I didn't hear anything, so I was like, well, I'm gonna do a search on like Amazon, search on Walmart. It's like nothing, but on Amazon there was like a couple books for that had that title. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence. I don't think it was anything related. Yeah, so it's directed by Gore Verbinski, and I haven't even said anything about the movie yet. What's interesting is I keep forgetting. So Gore Verbinski, I feel like it's been a while since he's done anything, and he has an interesting career, I would say. So if we go through it all, he did Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane in 1997. Then he did the Mexican, Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt. Okay, it's 2 totally different things. He did something in 1996 called The Ritual. It's a short film. So he did 1997. He did Mouse Hunt. 2001, The Mexican. 2002, the next year, he does The Ring. So you're looking at Mouse Hunt, The Mexican, and The Ring. Totally different. 3 totally different things. And then 2003, he does Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, which is, again, different. That's like a big popcorn, whatever, tentpole movie type of thing. And then in 2 years later, 2005, he does The Weatherman. So that's Nicolas Cage. And I don't remember if I've ever actually seen that. I don't know if I did or not. So he does The Weatherman. And then 2006, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. 2007, Pirates of the Caribbean, At World's End. Okay. And then 2011, he does Rango, which is like a animated, movie. Johnny Depp does Rango. And, okay. Then he does Lone Ranger. And I'm pretty sure I didn't see that. So Johnny Depp again. And then that was 2013. 2016, so I guess this is the last thing he's done. He did A Cure for Wellness. And that's crazy. 2016. It's like 10 years ago. Because I remember going down to the Fox lot. It was like a cool moment. I don't remember if this was the first time on the lot or not. Might have been first or second time. Because I also saw X-Men Apocalypse on the Fox lot. But I go to the Fox lot. I've probably told this story before. Go straight from the airport. And I go to the front. I'm like, I'm here for this movie thing, showcase. And they're like, guy shows me on the map. Like, okay, it's on the other side of the lot. So I free reign walking across the Fox lot. And I think I mentioned it. I was like, hey, there's a diner from Bones, David Boreanaz's show. Click, take a picture of it. There's like buildings with like murals. There's like Star Wars stuff. And so it was like really cool. Got to see the fake street. And that diner is also in How I Met Your Mother, which I thought was cool. So I get there, and the showcase was for Logan. So you got to see like 20 minutes of Logan, and we got to see some of Alien. One of the Alien movies, not what was it? I forget which one. A little bit of one of the not War for Planet of the Apes, one of the Planet of the Apes movies, and A Cure for Wellness. And I think with A Cure for Wellness, it was like the first 20 minutes of the movie. And I was watching this movie. I was like so fascinated. It's like this movie, one, the thing I like. It looks so weird. It's so bizarre. I was like fascinated, and then then it stops. So I was like, man, I want to see this movie. Then later, got an invite to go down to the Fox lot to see a screening of the movie. When I thought about this, I was like, this isn't a GameSpot movie. This isn't a movie that the audience, that the GameSpot crowd is going to care about. I don't know if we could justify paying for me to go to the airport, hop on a plane, fly down to LA, take a cab from LA to the Fox lot, watch the movie, cab back to the airport, fly back, and all that stuff. I was like, I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think, and I wasn't going to try to justify this because it's not my money, but I was like, it's way too much for just one movie review that no one's going to care about. When I eventually did see it, it was like really cool, and then it just kind of fizzled out. And it got kind of weird, and it got weird in a not necessarily cool way. So I don't know. I mean, it was a little kind of creepy way. I haven't seen the movie since 2016, so I could be wrong. But that was the last thing. So, I mean, but if you look at all those movies, and I know this is like such a tangent or whatever, he does like so many different things. He was apparently executive producer in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So I'm a fan of his work. I mean, it's so diverse, and I think it's so fascinating, so cool that he does different things that. Because, a lot of times with some directors, they have a directing style. Like, you can tell, like, oh, yeah, this is, this person's movie and so forth. But these are just so different. When you got this title, and then it's directed by Gore Verbinski, and then the idea of the movie is Sam Rockwell, he says he's from the future. So he goes into his diner. I guess I'll just get into it. He's wearing a trench coat. He's got all this stuff. He's like, I have bombs. These are bombs on me. And he says that he's from the future, that he needs a specific combination of people in that diner to go with him to save the future. He says that this is the 117th time, or no, he did it 117th time? I think this was his 117th attempt. He's tried all these different combinations, and at first people are like, okay, he's got this big bushy beard. They assume he's like a homeless guy, and he's just ranting and stuff like that, and yeah, they start to ignore him. But then he like does some starts like grabbing people's phone, like tossing it in like a pitcher of water, and people are like, what are you doing? And then that's when he likes like, I have a bomb type of thing. So it's like no one's leaving, because some people tried to get up and stuff like that. No one wants to believe him, but then he knows people. He like knows their names, and he like talks about different things. So it's almost like, and there's like one guy wants to volunteer. He's like, no, not you. He's like, you got a bad knee. He's like, put your hands out. And so he knows all this stuff about people. So it's like, maybe he's not a crazy guy. Maybe he has actually done this. The thing is, this is where it kind of gets a little like, oh, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of freaky, because he's saying that like in the future, there's like this AI that's gonna like, it kind of causes the end of the world, or almost whatever. It causes this horrible future because people just get so into it, and again, using the resources. This is why people should not be, one reason why people should not be using AI to generate silly images. One, it is stealing from actual artists. It's like so many times it gathers whatever people's work and learns from whatever, uses it to create some silly image that you could pay someone to do, and that's the problem is people don't want to pay for them. This is a thing I look at, where when I draw a picture, when I draw on the iPad, when I use Procreate, I'm lucky if I can get it done within a week. And I'm not drawing it, I'm not giving it 100% of my time, but this is between teaching and doing all the podcast stuff, watching all the shows, reading the comics and everything like that. It takes me a while. And I look at, just a frustration with, because whenever I do it, it's not perfect. There's always something, every single time I can like find, several things that I can criticize or whatever. Or there's sometimes where I was like, oh, I could have polished this a little more, but I feel like it's like, well, I need to get this done. I can't sit here forever doing the same piece. But then it's like when you look at like the AI stuff, it's like boom, you can just create something like that. And I have a little talent, but I'm working at it. I'm trying to learn and trying to teach myself and trying different things, But so that's the thing. AI just makes it easy and it's cheap and it's not right. But then there's also the reason like how it uses the resource. People talk about the servers and it uses the water and all this stuff like that. And that's kind of what's happening. That's the AI just drains all the resources, and this is a scary thing. There was in the news there was this footage of like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting on a rooftop, and it looks exactly like them. It's even got like their mannerisms and stuff like that, and the way they talk. And then there's like different clips. There's like Brad Pitt fighting a ninja and Tom Cruise fighting like a zombie or something. But the fact that it looks like them and that you can create this, so that's a scary thing. It's like they're using their likeness without their permission. So I mean that's a huge violation. And I don't think like a non-actor, non-creative person gets how that is so wrong. But then you have to wonder, it's like how much resources were used to make this. I don't know how that works, because it's not like when you make like a CG movie and CG stuff. You look at Pixar movies or whatever. They're getting better and better. You look at like the hair technology in the Pixar movies, how they've increased, like making hair, making water, making fire. I mean it's crazy. How good the graphics can look, and maybe at some point they'll be able to do like CG, because a lot of it, you look at like some video games and that, some CG almost looks real. It's a little lifeless. There's still some things that they can't quite capture. They may get there at some point, but it's different, because with that, people are actually creating and working and doing it, versus AI. No one's like doing it. It's just like taking like the ultimate like shortcut, and there's no creativity in it. So I'm like such a tangent, whatever, because I mean this is a thing that it's not a good thing to use, and I like a lot of times people are like oh, just you need to write something, use Chat GPT to do this, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I was like there's times like my principal will be like, oh, just have this, write this out, and you use. I think teachers even use it to tell kids like give you have it give you an outline or give you the ideas, and then you don't use that, you don't submit that, but you kind of use it. It's like I don't want to do that, and it's like I don't want to use ChatGPT to write a letter to parents or something like that, because if I can't do that on my own brain or whatever, I shouldn't be teaching. If I can't do basic communication, and I don't want to use ChatGPT or whatever to make a math test or something like that, because I should be able to make that myself. If I can't do that, I shouldn't be teaching math. And yeah, it can be used as a tool to make things easier, but it just feels so wrong. So I feel very anti-AI. All right, so I don't know how long I was talking about that. Back to the movie. So Sam Rockwell's character, he's trying to get volunteers and trying to coerce some people to go with them. And then where maybe some people might not dig this so much, the movie kind of does some flashbacks, and we find out more about these different people. And it's interesting. It is like it does kind of like mess with the flow of the movie, because all of a sudden things stop. And it's almost like like how I am doing this podcast right now, because I have to keep stopping because I got this like sharp like tickle in my throat, and I'm like chowing down on cough drops. But I'm so glad we're at the end of this podcast, or almost at the end. Oh yeah. So anyways, the movie, it kind of then goes in a flashback, and you see more. But you get into it because you like, who are these people and what's going on. And it's interesting, but then there's like little things that are like a little off, because when Michael Peña, he becomes like a substitute teacher. Like he's a new teacher at a school because the other teacher took a sabbatical or something like that. And when he's in a class, like all the kids are on their phone, and he's like, "Is this normal?" And and he's like, "We're gonna read this book," and then some people are like, "Oh, I'm listening to audiobook now." It's like, "Oh, this is horrible," and he's like, "Put your," and someone's like, "Is there a movie based off of this?" And then just like everyone's on their phones. Something weird happens with the phones. I won't get into that, which is like, okay, that's not really quite normal. But then another character, her son was killed in like a school shooting. It turns out that there's a company that will clone your kid and bring him back. The kid is not really normal because I think they're driven by AI to bring back like the personality type of thing. So I was like, okay, that's a little not quite where we're at now. But there's just other thing like this. So it's interesting to see like who these people are. Is this the right combination or not? That's the big question. Is this going to work? And it goes further and further, and then things really start. We get like more hints of weirdness and like really weird stuff. So it's just I found it very interesting and fascinating, and it was entertaining. So but Sam Rockwell, I mean, he was great in this, and Zazie Beetz was in this, and Juno Temple, and I definitely want to see this again, and I'm not going to go to the theater to see it again, but I can't wait to see it, and I feel like you should watch it. I don't know how it's going to do. I'm curious what the budget is if that's not listed. The Rotten Tomato score, in case you're wondering, I think this went down a little bit. But it's at the critics. It's at 84%, so that's good. Certified fresh. Popcorn meter is at 88%, so that's good. That means the audience is liking this because I'm looking at this, and I'm not saying like I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, but I could see how some people might not quite appreciate this movie so much, and I don't like. I have a feeling it's not going to be like a huge box office, whatever success. But I hope that's wrong. I don't know what type of promotion this is getting. I didn't know anything about it. I just looked at what movies are coming out this week, and then I saw like, what is this? And then I was like, this, again, for me, I was like, that's a weird, catchy title. And I was like, oh, Sam Rockwell's in it, and Zazie Beetz, all these. Michael Peña, and then Gore Verbinski. So I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm gonna watch this. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. It is something different. You do have this serious topic, but it is also it's like a sci-fi thriller action movie, and it's just there's funny moments, there's crazy moments, and it's definitely something different. And it's so many. I know I've said this from time to time. So much of what we watch, it's either a remake, a reboot, a sequel, a prequel. There's always something that's like regurgitating. And I'm not saying that that's bad, because even if you do a remake or whatever, you're maybe at a different twist or do something. But this is, as far as I can tell, this is like an original concept. I don't think it's based off of anything. So I applaud that this is something, it's taking some big risks, and maybe that's where Gore Verbinski comes in, that he's willing to do this and not try to make it completely mainstream. And then that's a weird thing, doing something like Pirates of the Caribbean. Obviously, you are making that for the audience. That's going to be like a summer blockbuster movie. And then doing something like Cure for Wellness, he could care less what you're going to think about it. He's going to make the movie the way what he wants to make. And I feel like that's the same thing here. You're not going out of your way to make it like a commercial success or anything like that. You're just trying to make it like a really cool, interesting movie. And I feel that they've succeeded with this. So I encourage you to check this out. And I encourage me to get a new throat or get some more tea or something. But I think that's going to be it. And I'm fighting. I don't want to hit the pause button to cough, and I don't want to cough. So that is going to be the podcast for this week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Currently looking at DC Comics Silver Age books, weird, wacky ones, the really funny, weird covers. And you find out how are they going to get away with this inside this comic. I'll probably be doing another off of mine soon. I want to do it for like the 400th episode. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I need a topic, so we'll see. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or four. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, so what is going to happen next week? So we're down one show. Fallout is done. We have Hijack and Wonder Man. I'm trying to think what's starting up. I feel like something is coming. And I know as soon as I stop recording, or a lot of times it's like when I'm editing, I'm like, I should have mentioned that or whatever. So I'm sure there's other stuff coming. I feel like there's something. I know there's something. I'm just totally drawing a blank. But the movie feature is going to be, was it Psycho Killer, right? I think that's what it is. Let me just click on this real quick. Yeah, so Psycho Killer. I'm trying to think if I've seen it. I don't think I saw a trailer for this. It has Georgina Campbell and James Preston Rogers, directed Gavin Polone. It has a wild and crazy horror movie. Also has Grace Dove, Logan Miller, and Malcolm McDowell. I forget what this is about, like what the premise is. Following the brutal murder of her husband, a Kansas Highway Patrol officer, Georgina Campbell, sets out on a journey to track down the perpetrator. As the hunt progresses, she comes to realize the man responsible is a sadistic serial killer, and the depth of his mental depravity and his sinister agenda is more twisted than anyone could have imagined. So, okay. It's going to be weird and creepy, and I'm down with that. So that is going to be it for this week. I can't talk anymore. I hope you are doing better than I am. I hope you are having fun. I hope you don't die. I hope you're doing cool things, and I hope you remember, be good to each other.